Chapter 2570. Waiting. Time was a very painful thing. Especially the endless waiting. One couldn't help sighing. There were some people in this world who loved the wrong person. After telling this story, Luo Qingchun silently looked into Du Jiusheng's deep as ink eyes. The stars in the night covered the light of the moon, but she could see the sea of stars in his eyes, as well as the light of the moon. That beautiful cuckoo. Luo Qingchun cleared her throat and said with a faint smile, "It seems like we are a match made in heaven." Even if it was the past, she felt that there was no need to be too sad. But in Du Jiusheng's eyes, her soft laugh strangely made his heart ache. Why do you have to marry a person who has nothing and lives alone in the cold palace? He slowly raised his eyes, and there was a glimmer of light in his eyes. He wasn't just doubtful about her confident words. He was also doubtful about the throbbing in his heart that no one could understand. "Why can't I marry you?" Luo Qingchun pouted her lips with a proud look as she looked at Du Jiusheng in a spoiled manner. "I'm a poor young miss." As soon as her voice fell, she felt that something was wrong and immediately changed her words. "Poor palace maid." She didn't know how to explain the past to Du Jiusheng since the other side didn't have any memories, so it might not move his heart. "Who said you were a palace maid?" Du Jiusheng said with a faint smile. "You don't look like a palace maid at all." "How do you not look like one?" Luo Qingchun pulled at her light pink palace dress. "A palace maid's uniform. I am just a little palace made by big brother Jiusheng's side." Actually, she really liked this kind of life. Even if there was a blood feud, as long as she could be with Du Jiusheng, this peaceful life was the shore of happiness. "Let's take a trip out of the palace tomorrow. Go buy some clothes and the things you need." Du Jiusheng looked at her and said, "This northern cold palace doesn't need a palace maid." "Leave the palace?" Luo Qingchun's eyes lit up. "We can leave the palace at will." "Of course not." Du Jiusheng narrowed his eyes and said, "It's the mute slave's turn to be on duty at the south gate tomorrow, so we can go out." "Why?" Luo Qingchun looked at Du Jiusheng with a look of joy. Big brother Jiusheng really is good. Even without the system, without the affection prompt, she could feel that Du Jiusheng treated her differently. There was a hint of indulgence in her helplessness. When she was with him, she felt that the world had become beautiful. "My thoughts are also very chaotic. It's good to take you out to relax." Du Jiusheng drank the remaining wine before looking at her. "I'll send you back to your room. It's time to sleep." "I'm not done yet." "What's a girl drinking so much for?" "I'm worried." Luo Qingchun picked up the wine jar and said, "I'm worried, so I can only drink to drown my worries." "What are you worried about?" Du Jiusheng saw her red cheeks and cute appearance. Even his tone became gentle. Luo Qingchun saw that the topic was successfully changed, so she pursed her lips and said with a thick face, "I'm thinking about when big brother Jiusheng will marry me. A man and a woman living under the same roof. It's not right. Wouldn't be good if this was spread." She couldn't be reserved with Du Jiusheng because she didn't want to waste any time. She just wanted to be with him. "You," Du Jiusheng said with a helpless smile. "The maids and eunuchs in the palace are living under the same roof as the master. How could it be bad if this was spread?" Chapter 2571. Seeing that she was a bit angry, Du Jiusheng's heart strangely became nervous. He couldn't help raising his hand to softly pat her head. "I didn't mean that. Don't be angry." She pursed her lips and took the small wine jar as she looked at him. "Then what do you mean? Speak properly. What kind of status do I have in the northern cold palace?" Du Jiusheng looked at her clear as water eyes and said with a smile, "Whatever you want, don't drink the wine. A gentleman's words cannot be taken back." Luo Qingchun said with a sigh, "You can't go back on your words." "I won't." Du Jiusheng didn't forget to add, "Give me the wine." She reluctantly gave the small wine jar to Du Jiusheng. The bright moonlight shined down on her snow-white face, making her look even more beautiful. Du Jiusheng narrowed his eyes and took the wine, feeling like his eyes were mesmerized. When his fingertips touched it, it created ripples in one's heart. It was a dreamless night, and the faint sandalwood scent in the west room made her sleep very well. The mute slave didn't treat her as a maid. He took care of her like a master. He knew that she was leaving the palace with Jiu Yi today, so he had specially prepared clothes for her. Luo Qingshun was very surprised when she received it. It was a light blue begonia brocade dress with clouds embroidered on it. It looked very delicate. It should be a brocade dress from the palace. It definitely wasn't cheap. This dress is too expensive. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips and said, "It will definitely cost you several months of salary. I can't take it." The mute slave desperately shook his head, showing that she had saved his life. This dress was just a worldly possession. It wasn't as precious as his life. "How about this? In the future, you can directly help me get my monthly salary." Luo Qingshun took the dress and said, "I don't need the money, so if you're not willing, I won't take this dress." The mute slave was surprised, but he finally nodded. Actually, Luo Qingshun's guess wasn't wrong. This dress cost him half a year's salary. The salary of a cold palace servant was like heaven and earth compared to the salary of an Ning palace servant. But Du Jiusheng took care of him, so he didn't need to worry about food and clothing. After she changed her clothes, Du Jiusheng was already waiting for her in the yard. He was wearing a snow-white robe with a straight lapel. The robe was draped beautifully, and there was a wide belt with patterns of white clouds around his waist. There was only a piece of black jade of excellent quality hanging from the belt. The shape of the jade looked rough, but it was simple and unadorned. Luo Qingshun looked at him and revealed a faint smile. "Mute slave, we'll be back in the evening." Mute slave nodded as his eyes were filled with happiness. After all these years is the Ning palace. The palaces also BTs assessed S Ning B's is STT S mean another hour's walk would bring them to Missouri and Street. The North Cold Palace couldn't compare to the Ning Palace. There was the bustling Missouri and Street as soon as they came out of the North Gate. But this was also good. Being able to walk side by side with Du Jiusheng was a happy thing for her. The streets were filled with horse carriages, and there were endless shouts coming from the street. "Candied haws, big and sweet candied haws." She looked at Du Jiusheng beside her with a faint smile. This Missouri and Street is so lively. Even the air outside the palace is free. Chapter 2572. Luo Qingshun said with a sigh, "There's no other way. The Liao people are strong, and it isn't easy for the Mo kingdom to resist them until now." In the memories of the previous host, there were some memories like this. The Lord Prefect was worried about the rise and fall of the country, but he never thought that the one who killed the 66 people of his Luo family was the court he cared about. "Let's go. I'll take you to buy clothes first before we eat." Du Jiusheng looked at her in the brocade dress and said, "You really do look like the master of the Northern Cold Palace." Right. Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes and said with a smile, "Don't I have the potential to be the 9th princess?" This time, Du Jiusheng didn't hesitate as he seriously looked in her eyes and softly said, Luo Qingshun was surprised, never thinking that Du Jiusheng would say unto her, although it was just a simple word, whether it was for him or Luo Qingshun, it filled their hearts with shock. Luo Qingshun bit her lip and said, I want to eat candied haws. Buy. Du Jiusheng said with a faint smile, "Buy whatever you want to eat." From last night's long conversation over wine, he was already very clear about this. Since he couldn't avoid the throbbing in his heart, he would accept it all. He loved this feeling in his heart, so he wasn't willing to run away. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips. Hearing Du Jiusheng say this, her heart was filled with smiles. She said with a sweet smile, "Big brother Jiusheng is the best in the world." For hours later, her hands were filled with food as she walked around. Du Jiusheng's hands were filled with the clothes she had chosen. Luo Qingshun might never know, but since Xia Ro died, this was the happiest day for Du Jiusheng. This was a kind of joy that came from the bottom of his heart that couldn't be stopped. Fortune-telling. Fortune-telling. The voice of a charlatan drifted into her ears. She didn't care about what he said and walked over. Little did she know that the fortune-teller would grab her sleeve and say, "Miss, let's have our fortune read." Du Jiusheng knit his brows and quickly came in front of her. He looked at the fortune-teller and said, "If you want to make a move, don't blame me for being impolite. Young master, please calm down. Young master, please don't be angry." The fortune teller immediately said, "I'm on the way to Emmoan City. Seeing that Mrs. Complexion is strange, why don't you perform a divination to determine your fortune?" Luo Qingqian glanced sideways at the fortune teller's sign. There were a few words written on it. Xiao Chong divination, 10 characters, 1 divination. Knowing the past and the future. "It's fine, just do a divination." Luo Qingqian softly pulled on Du Jiushang's sleeve. "I want to see if it works. Miss, please take a seat." After Xiao Chong finished writing her date of birth, he said, "Yang on the top and Yin on the bottom. Miss, you have to have a clear heart and use your heart to see everything in front of you. Otherwise, you will lose the most important person." Luo Qingqian's heart skipped a beat, and she felt like she couldn't breathe. The children on the side giggled. "Fortune teller, why do you say this to everyone? Hee hee, then let them take the money to avoid disaster, ha ha ha. Charlatan, full of nonsense." Du Jiushang left the 10 copper coins and softly took Luo Qingqian's wrist. "Let's go." Hearing the words of the children beside her, her heart calmed down quite a bit. Chapter 2573. Luo Qingqian heard this, but she didn't understand what it meant and felt a bit unsettled. She was afraid that the hands holding hers would suddenly let go one day. After walking for a bit, the two didn't speak. Du Jiushang felt the uneasiness in her heart and turned to look at her. "It's just the words of Jianghu magicians. Don't take it to heart." She gave a slight nod and said with a smile, "I won't take it to heart. Let's go to the Three Harmonious restaurant and eat something." Du Jiushang raised his right hand to pat her head. "You can go back to the palace after eating." Three Harmonious restaurant? Luo Qingqian's eyes lit up. Could it be the most famous Three Harmonious restaurant in Emmoan City? In the memories of the previous host, whenever there was a birthday or an important festival, they would go to the Three Harmonious restaurant to eat. It said that the head chef of the Three Harmonious restaurant was naturally arrogant. The imperial kitchen had invited him to the palace several times, but they were all rejected. The food of the Three Harmonious restaurant was better than the food of the palace. Now that she thought about the days of eating at the Three Harmonious restaurant, she felt that it was a very distant thing. "All right." Luo Qingqian swept away the depression in her heart and said with a faint smile, "We have to eat a big meal." "All right, we'll eat whatever you want." He narrowed his eyes with a bit of pampering in them. These days were quite good. It was like the hatred in his heart was gradually dissipating. The hatred of his mother, the hatred of the summer country, the injustice of the royal family. It was like these things didn't matter when she appeared. He was even content with the current warmth. Whenever he saw her smile, there would be a stable thought in his heart. If he could spend the rest of his life with her in the northern cold palace, it would be a beautiful thing. Three Harmonious restaurant. Although it was the afternoon, it was still crowded. After waiting for a while, there was finally an empty seat. "Welcome, young master and miss, to the Three Harmonious restaurant. We have the most delicious dishes, the most fragrant wine, and the most beautiful songs," Xiao 20 enthusiastically introduced. Luo Qingqian said with a chuckle, "Give me a set of arhut prawns, fried quail, braised red scallops, almond tofu, jadeite osmanthus cake, and a pot of Lion Peak dragonwell." "Miss, does young master drink?" Arsana Building's most famous cannons and lanterns were just purchased from a border merchant today. "Is that so?" Luo Qingqian pursed her lips as she looked at Du Jiushang with an expectant gaze. Little did they know, he shook his head lightly and said, "I'm not drinking anymore." Okay." After the waiter left, Luo Qingqian looked at Du Jiushang with a questioning gaze. "Why didn't you let him drink?" "Drinking wine is one of life's pleasures." "How can a girl drink wine?" Du Jiushang poured a cup of hot water for her. "Drink more water." Big brother Jiushang really is boring." Luo Qingqian crossed her arms and pursed her lips. "Now you find me boring?" He smiled bitterly and looked at her. The days in the northern cold palace are much more boring than this. Since he had confirmed his thoughts, he wanted to keep her by his side. But he didn't know if she was willing to spend this boring life with him. Luo Qingxian saw that his tone was a bit cold, so she nervously replied, "Big brother Jiusheng, I was just casually saying it. You're making me panic." There was a feeling that if she wasn't willing, Du Jiusheng would let her go. Chapter 2574. I'm the one panicking when you say that I'm boring. Du Jiusheng looked at her with a pair of deep starry eyes. Qingxian, I'm the kind of person who won't let go even if I die. Luo Qingxian was stunned as her eyes couldn't help turning red. She felt that the other side had received her feelings, and then he had given her a response. This was a kind of feeling that others wouldn't understand. Don't mention death. Luo Qingxian shook her head. We won't die. No matter what happens, we won't die. He gave a slight nod and said with a gentle smile, I will protect you. You have to protect yourself too. Luo Qingxian slightly knit her brows and said in a choked voice, You really can't leave me. Really, he couldn't. How many times had she been left alone in this world? She had almost forgotten what it was like to be alone, but she still deeply remembered the pain in her heart. That feeling, even after tens of thousands of years, it still took root in her heart, forming an imprint that couldn't be erased. Me? Du Jiusheng gave a self-deprecating laugh. My life is very hard. The dishes are here. The waiter's appearance interrupted their somewhat sorrowful conversation. He shouted, Guests, please enjoy your meal. Let's eat first. Du Jiusheng raised his hand to soften her brows. Don't knit your brows. We've been through so many storms and waves. The only thing left should be comfort and enjoyment. Pucci. Hearing Du Jiusheng's words, she couldn't help smiling. Big brother Jiusheng says it like we're going to retire. Silly girl. He put a mouthful of osmanthus cake in her bowl. Try the small dessert from the 3 restaurant. Luo Qingxian put a large mouthful in her mouth, and it melted in her mouth. It was crispy on the outside and soft on the inside, sweet but not greasy. It tasted very good. Delicious. Luo Qingxian also put a piece in Du Jiusheng's bowl. Big brother Jiusheng, eat too. After the meal, they didn't mention anything else. After the meal, Luo Qingxian felt a slight itch on her ears. She didn't pay too much attention until Du Jiusheng called out to her when she was paying the bill. Qing don't move. He nervously knitted his brows and walked to her side, pressing down on her shoulders to make her sit down. Her slender fingertips gently stroked the red spot on his neck. Does it hurt? She replied. She wanted to reach out, but Du Jiusheng's other hand firmly grabbed her. Aya. Big brother Jiusheng only feels a bit of pain, but the itch is unbearable. Luo Qingxian blinked and pursed her lips. You still won't let me scratch you. Don't scratch. He looked at the red spots on her face and neck with a deep gaze. His careful and gentle voice sounded in her ear. You should be allergic. When he first saw it, he was shocked. His immediate reaction was that he had been poisoned. Although he was a prince of the Cold Palace, he was still a member of the palace. Although there weren't many people who wanted to harm him, it didn't mean that there weren't any. But thinking about it, he had also eaten the things that Luo Qingxian had eaten. After all, he was a martial artist, so it was easy for him to notice something strange with his body, but he didn't feel that anything was wrong. The only possibility was that this silly girl was allergic to a certain dish, but she was careless enough to not know about it. Chapter 2575. AI. He gave a sigh as he looked at her with a helpless and worried look. Why are you like a little girl? You don't even know that you're allergic. This kind of little girl really couldn't stop him from worrying if he didn't keep her by his side. This restaurant's food really isn't bad. I forgot about it while eating. Luo Qingxian felt like a little girl who had done something wrong, like a disobedient little wife. In short, the feeling of being reminded by Du Jiusheng wasn't bad. Aya, the waiter on the side said in a shocked voice. Miss, what is wrong with you? This. Why is your face red like this? The waiter was naturally nervous since this 3-part house was Mo and City's signature restaurant. If something really happened to a customer, he couldn't take the responsibility. It should be an allergy to the osmanthus cake. Luo Qingxian looked at Du Jiusheng and said, I remember it. I had an allergy to the osmanthus cake when I was young, and I had a fever for 3 days and 3 nights. Since then, Father never had the chef in the manor buy things like osmanthus cakes, because it was the previous host's memories and the memories from when she was young. She didn't think that she would be this allergic. Miss, you're allergic? You can't blame it on our three-part house. The waiter let out a sigh of relief as he quickly pushed this matter away. Luo Qingchen also thought that it was her fault and didn't want to involve others, but this waiter's face really made her feel disgusted. It still needs to be investigated if I'm allergic to the osmanthus cake or not. Luo Qingchen lowered her voice. But if I report it now, your three-part house won't be able to open today. You. The waiter's face turned red as he gritted his teeth. How can you slander people? Cuckoo. Luo Qingchen cleared her throat and said, since Big Brother Waiter is saying this, then let's meet at the court. As soon as her voice fell, she was prepared to turn when the shopkeeper quickly came over. He looked at Luo Qingchen and said, Miss, don't be angry. This waiter is new and doesn't know the rules. Our triad restaurant values our customers above all else. This is the medical fee of our small shop. He took out a money pouch and continued, today, all of Mrs. purchases at Sana Restaurant will be free of charge. I hope Miss will show mercy and not report this to the authorities. The moment he handed the money bag over, he didn't forget to nudge the waiter beside him. The waiter hurriedly said, Young master, young lady, I'm new here and don't know the rules. Please don't argue with a servant like me. You don't have to pay for the medical fees. Luo Qingchen snorted and said, We will pay for the meal. We were just dissatisfied with the waiter's tone, but since he has apologized, let's forget about it. Du Jiusheng put a silver ingot on the table and looked at her. Let's go. Let's go to the clinic first. He was very anxious in his heart, but this girl was not anxious at all. She even argued with the shopkeeper with reason. Could it be that he was born with a calm temperament? Perhaps the anxiety in his heart had already come from his face. On the way to the clinic, Luo Qingchen didn't forget to look around. Du Jiusheng really couldn't take it anymore. He tightly grabbed her hand and looked at her with a serious look. Miss Luo Qingchen, don't you know that you have a fever? If you don't take it seriously, I will carry you to the clinic right now. Luo Qingchen was stunned, standing there in a daze. Seeing Du Jiusheng's tightly knit brows and angry, she didn't dare say a single word. She could only obediently nod and say, Promise to take it seriously. I won't look anymore. Chapter 2576. In the clinic. After the doctor saw the symptoms, he wrote a few prescriptions and said, The miss is allergic to osmanthus flowers, so she's getting better after applying some herbs. Take the rest of the medicine after 3 meals and change the medicine every 3 hours, so she'll be fine by tomorrow. Thank you, doctor. Du Jiusheng took the herbs while holding Luo Qingchen's hand. Let's go back. Oh, right. The doctor seemed to have thought of something and didn't forget to remind them. If the madam is pregnant, you need to take less medicine. Although it will be a bit slower, it won't affect the fetus. Luo Qingchen's face turned red, and she felt that it was hotter than her forehead. But Du Jiusheng replied in a deep voice, Luo Qingchen thought, I really don't know if this old doctor did it on purpose or not. He had already taken her pulse. Didn't he know if she was pregnant or not? Didn't the books say that the ancient doctors were like golden needles that could bring the dead back to life? Then what did Du Jiusheng's mean? Why did it feel like he was admitting it? On the way back, he tightly held her hand, and the warmth from his palm warmed her heart. When they arrived at the south gate, the mute slave was already waiting with a lamp. Seeing Luo Qingchen go out with such a beautiful appearance and come back like a little sparrow, he was shocked. Boil a pot of hot water. Let Qing take a bath first. Du Jiusheng slowly said, I'll go to the kitchen to boil the medicine. The mute slave took the herbs, meaning that he would go boil the medicine after he finished boiling the water. Du Jiusheng shook his head. I'll do it myself. He didn't treat the mute slave as a servant. Other than cooking, he could do most things himself. Not to mention boiling medicine for her. He always felt more assured doing it himself. The mute slave nodded. He took the clothes from Du Jiusheng's hand and headed to the west wing. Du Jiusheng looked at Luo Qingchen and said, Take a shower first, and then take your medicine. Is it bitter? Luo Qingchen blinked and asked, "If it's bitter, do you have candy? I'll taste it for you. If it's bitter, I'll give you some candy." Du Jiusheng tapped her forehead. "You really are a child." After taking a warm bath, she didn't feel so uncomfortable anymore. Her fever had also subsided. She changed into a honey-colored dress with hidden flowers and walked to the pavilion in the yard. The first time they met, Du Jiusheng had played the Guangling song here. The zither music was very gentle, but there was an indescribable power to it. In fact, she understood the hatred and ambition in his heart. However, when these ambitions could not be realized, they would always be kept in their hearts. When she was in a daze, Du Jiusheng slowly walked in her direction. He raised his right hand and touched her forehead. Only then did his eyebrows relax a little. "Your fever is gone." Du Jiusheng placed it in front of her and said, "You'll be better tomorrow after drinking this." There was the smell of Chinese medicine in the air that smelled very bitter. Seeing her knit her brows, Du Jiusheng quickly said, "It's not bitter after trying it." "Really?" Luo Qingchen pursed her lips and picked up the bowl of medicine to drink it. The medicine was very bitter, but there was a faint smile on her lips. Du Jiusheng placed a piece of candy in her hand, not mentioning the bitterness. "I prepared it for you." Chapter 25:77. The snow in the sky became heavier, and several snowflakes fell onto her hair. Du Jiusheng slowly put her down before gently stroking her face. "I really hope that this snow can trap me here." She looked up with a bit of confusion in her deep eyes. "We were trapped here to begin with." Du Jiusheng narrowed his eyes as he looked at her with a pampering smile. This was really good. It snowed all night, and it was all white when she woke up in the morning. Luo Qingchen put on the moon-white brocade clothes that Du Jiusheng bought for her yesterday and stretched out in front of the west room. It was a dreamless night. She really slept well. She suddenly thought of something and muttered with knitted brows, "Where's the mute slave?" Normally, she would see the mute slave busy around this time, and there would be the smell of food coming from the kitchen. But not only did she not see the mute slave today, there was no smell of food. But she didn't care that much since she wasn't clear on the schedule in the palace yet. She tidied up her clothes and walked through the snow to find Du Jiusheng. In the study, Du Jiusheng liked to stay in the study when he had nothing to do. If this was the modern world, he would be a good seedling in the eyes of his parents and a top student in the eyes of his teachers. Du, come in." Luo Qingchen opened the door and came forward with a smile. "What is big brother Jiusheng doing?" "I'm bored, writing something." Du Jiusheng looked at her beautiful white dress and waved his hand with a gentle smile. "Come over." Luo Qingchen looked really good in this dress. He wouldn't get tired of looking at it. She lifted her skirt as she walked over to Du Jiusheng, obediently sitting down beside him. There was a piece of paper on the table, and there was a sentence written on it. "Until the end of the world, in the distance where there is no conflict, I will recognize you with a single word." There was a large ching at the end of the sentence. Du Jiusheng's handwriting was very good. It had a different kind of strength to it. It was between regular script and clerical script. The style was strong, neat, but not lacking in boldness. In short, it was very good looking. "Are you writing this to confess to me?" Luo Qingchen glanced sideways with a slight smile on her lips. Actually, she just wanted to tease her big brother Jiusheng, but she didn't know. "Yes." He nodded without hesitation. "That's right." Luo Qingchen was surprised. She felt a bit embarrassed by Du Jiusheng's direct response. "Big brother Jiusheng, why are you so direct now?" Luo Qingchen pursed her lips and said, "I can't tease you like this." She had seen Du Jiusheng's stunned expression when she said this before. The kind of bewitching face with a surprised and shy expression was especially cute. And now, apart from a doting smile on his face, there was almost no change in his expression. She wasn't cute at all. "You've hit on little sister Qingchen." Du Jiusheng gave her the pen in his hand. "If it was you, what would you write for me?" Luo Qingchen took the pen and looked over before writing a line of words on the paper. Her handwriting wasn't considered impressive, but every stroke of hers was well-proportioned and especially elegant. "Mountains have trees, and trees have branches. The heart pleases the Lord, but the Lord doesn't know." You ring go. Du Jiusheng gave a soft laugh. There was a faint sparkle in his deep as ink eyes as he looked deeply at her. You like the Lord, I know. Do you know? Chapter 2578. After practicing for a bit, it was already noon. Du Jiusheng looked at the sky outside the window and slightly knit his brows. Why isn't the mute slave back yet? Without knowing why, Luo Qingxin's heart skipped a beat as she said with a frown, I didn't see the mute slave when I woke up this morning, so I thought that he was working in the palace. Could it be that he wasn't? No. Du Jiusheng shook his head and said, working in the palace is an extra monthly salary. The mute slave is a servant of the cold palace, and he only works once a month, which was yesterday. Du Jiusheng's brows knit even tighter as he felt a bit unsettled. The mute slave doesn't seem like someone who would cause trouble. Luo Qingxian bit her lip and said, I feel that he might have met some trouble. Saying trouble was already light. The mute slave was bullied by the maids at her door that day, so he might have met some danger this time, so he couldn't come back. I'll go look for him. Du Jiusheng put on his coat and said, wait for me in the northern cold palace. I'll go with you. Luo Qingxian said with trembling brows, maybe I can help. No need. Big brother Jiusheng. Du Jiusheng saw her anxious appearance and finally said with a nod, then don't talk too much and just come with me. All right. Luo Qingxian gave a serious nod. When they came out of the northern cold palace, there was an endless corridor. There was a thick layer of snow, and there was a deep feeling when one stepped on it. There were still footprints of the mute slave along the way. It was still snowing, and the footprints weren't very shallow, which meant that the mute slave hadn't been gone for long. It should have been around the time she woke up. But the footprints became more and more shallow, and they couldn't be seen when they came to the fork. When they came to the end of the corridor, there were paths on both sides. The left led to the imperial kitchen and the concubine's chambers. The right led to the imperial medical building and the crown prince's eastern palace. Big brother Jiusheng, you go left and I'll go right. Luo Qingxian thought about it and said, to save time, you can come find me if you don't find him, and I'll come find you if I don't find him. Although Luo Qingxian's idea wasn't bad, Du Jiusheng still hesitated. She was not wearing the uniform of a palace maid. If she met some tricky young mistress, she would be in trouble. Big brother Jiusheng, there's no time to lose. All right, Du Jiusheng said with a sigh, be careful. No matter what, I was brought into the palace by the empress. No one is willing to touch this kind of nail. Luo Qingxian thought about it before saying, but big brother Jiusheng hasn't left Cold North Palace in a long time, so you have to be careful. Don't worry. At the end of the corridor, one of them went to the left, and the other to the right. Luo Qingxian took 2 steps to the right and couldn't help looking back at Du Jiusheng. In the boundless snow, he walked alone. When the cold wind blew, it seemed so bleak. Big brother Jiusheng, I hope nothing happens to Slavia. I hope we're all fine. She muttered to herself and turned her head to search in the right direction. Occasionally, they would meet a few palace maids on the way, and they would whisper something to each other. Luo Qingxian narrowed her cold eyes and looked over before quickly leaving. After walking for a quarter of an hour, she heard the sharp voices of several maids. Mute, your foot massaging technique really isn't bad. It makes me feel good. Z. I was beaten like this just for a few tonics. Ha ha ha. But why don't I feel hurt at all? Rather, I feel disgusted. Chapter 2579. Luo Qingxian didn't see the mute slave, but when she heard the maid's words, she knew they were talking about the mute slave. She quickly walked forward and saw the mute slave kneeling on the ground. His body was covered in blood, and his skin was torn open. His hands were trembling as he massaged the feet of one of the maids. His whole body couldn't stop shaking. Little did he know that in the next second, the palace maid kicked him away and screamed, "You dog slave! You're hurting me! Do you know that?" In the blink of an eye, Luo Qingxian picked up 3 stones by her feet. She raised her right hand and quickly threw them at the 3 maids. With 3 sounds, the 3 maids fell to the ground. She was angry. Seeing the mute slave being bullied like this, she didn't hold back. It was certain that there would be blood. Boo! The leader of the maids was terrified. Her voice trembled as she said, There's an assassin. Quickly, quickly report this to the crown prince and miss you. Hearing the maid say this, Luo Qingxun frowned. She felt a little uneasy. Was she already in the vicinity of the Eastern Palace? Probably because the maid's voice was too sharp. The palace door slowly opened. A woman wearing a light blue brocade dress made of flowery satin walked out from inside. She had a light blue hairband on her head. Her steps were light. She was obviously a martial artist. Luo Qingxun carefully looked over and recognized the person in front of her. In the original owner's memory, Yu Qingling wore the Sanqing Mountains uniform most of the time. She had a cold and indifferent appearance. But now that she was wearing brocade, it was hard to recognize her. Since you're here, why hide? A cold voice slowly rang out with a hint of hostility. Come out. Luo Qingxun didn't say anything. She landed on the ground with Qinggong. Her eyes were indifferent. It's you? Yu Qingling's voice was surprised. When she saw Luo Qingxun, her eyes narrowed. The blood feud appeared in front of her eyes. Although she had gotten her revenge, she was still the daughter of her enemy. When she saw her, she couldn't help but feel angry. She knew that the Empress had spared this woman's life, but she didn't say anything. After all, she had survived that year. The Luo family's 66 lives were buried with her family. Even if she died in this life, she wouldn't let down her parents in the underworld. But some emotions couldn't be suppressed. She slowly looked at Luo Qingxun and said, I didn't expect you to still be in the palace. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Luo Qingxun's cold eyes. Yu Qingling, if there's nothing else, then I'll leave with the mute slave. She's trying to kill all of us. Yu Qingling looked at the mute slave covered in blood. She could guess what had happened. She didn't respond to the maid. She just looked at Luo Qingxun and said, Others won't understand the grudges between us. How about we have a competition to resolve the knot in our hearts? Life and death wasn't important to Yu Qingling. She only wanted the life of her enemy. She knew that Luo Qingxun was the same as her in the past. They were both innocent people. She also knew that she wanted her life. Chapter 2580. Du Qi Chao, Du Qi Chao, Du Qi Chao. Luo Qingxun repeated his name 3 times in her heart. This man finally appeared for the first time since she came to this plane. No, perhaps it should be said that this was the first time they met. He was dressed in a flowing gold robe. His every movement carried the aura of a crown prince. Chao. Yu Qingling glanced to the side and said slowly, This is between me and Miss Luo. You don't have to interfere. She was a very principled person. Right was right. Wrong was wrong. Right was right. Wrong was wrong. She already had a balance in her heart. Good. Senior sister is always right. Du Qi Chao's gaze fell on Luo Qingxun. Seeing her indifferent eyes, he couldn't help but feel puzzled. He had known Luo Qingxun for so many years, but he had never seen her eyes so cold. It seemed that the pain of having a family destroyed could really make a person grow. It was a pity that he already had someone in his heart. The life and death of others didn't matter to him at all. In the next second, Yu Qingling pulled out her autumn frost sword. She looked at Luo Qingxun and said, Miss Luo, you can choose any weapon you like in the Eastern Palace. No need. Luo Qingxun looked up and said coldly, I only have one request. Please speak. Yu Qingling's cold eyes narrowed. There was some doubt in them. This Luo Qingxun was very different from the one she had seen before. She knew that her martial arts were much better than her. But how could she back down when there was a blood feud? If I win, I'll take the mute slave away. It's the Eastern Palace girl's fault. No matter if I win or lose, I'll let the mute slave leave. Luo Qingxun didn't reply. She slowly squatted down and checked the mute slave's injuries. She asked with concern, Can you hold on? The mute slave held on to her sleeve tightly and made a sound while stuttering. This time, he didn't dance, but Luo Qingxun understood what he was trying to say. He didn't want her to fight, and he didn't want her to die. Relax. Luo Qingxun looked up with a faint smile. I promised Big Brother Jiu Sheng that I wouldn't die. With that, she slowly got up and casually picked up a branch. She looked at Yu Qingling and said, Lady Yu, please. From a moment she squatted down, Du Qichao narrowed his eyes and stared at her completely. She had really changed. Was it because hatred had clouded her heart? Or was it because the annihilation of her entire family was too much of a blow to her? This Luo Qingshun gave him the same feeling as when he first met Cold Moon. The kind of pride, that kind of unyielding. For some reason, he felt that she had become even more attractive after her transformation. "You're going to use this to fight me?" Yu Qingling's tone was filled with doubt. She felt like her opponent was underestimating her. "That's enough." Yu Qingling narrowed her eyes and softly said, "Then don't blame me for not knowing how to control my strength." As soon as her voice fell, she used a small movement technique to attack Luo Qingshun with the autumn frost sword in her hand. In Luo Qingshun's eyes, her sword technique really wasn't that good. Compared to the heroes of the Jianghu, compared to the sword immortals of the 9 heavenly layers, it wasn't even 1% of theirs. In the blink of an eye, she used a small movement technique and jumped out. Her right hand took the autumn frost sword, and her left hand softly slapped her chest. There was no internal strength, but she still fell to the ground. She raised the autumn frost sword and pointed it at her neck as she said, "You've lost." Chapter 2581. The wind blew the snow, and the white ground was covered in frost. The gentle snow fell and stained the robes. She stood in the snow in a moon-white brocade robe, giving people a feeling that they couldn't approach her. It was like the world was faint and all dreams were empty. Yu Longqing looked at Luo Qingshun with a look of disbelief. She never thought that she would fail. Moreover, she had been defeated in such a short period of time. She asked herself, she didn't hold back in front of this blood feud, but she had still lost. Du Qichao quickly helped Yu Longqing up as he looked at Luo Qingshun not far away. That coldness, from his eyes to his words, almost froze everyone around him. He didn't know why Luo Qingshun felt this kind of extreme coldness. He just knew that she was more attractive than ever before. But being attractive didn't mean that she could hurt Yu Longqing. Although he didn't know why Luo Qingshun's martial arts suddenly became so good, being able to take down Yu Longqing's autumn frost sword in less than 10 moves. Xiao xiao. There were 2 sounds of sword being raised as Du Qichao picked up the autumn frost sword that had fallen to the ground to attack Luo Qingshun. Luo Qingshun, who had helped the mute slave up, slightly moved her ears and planned on dodging Du Qichao's attack. An extremely fast figure flashed past and appeared in front of her, grabbing the sharp edge of the autumn frost sword with his bare hands. Dee-da-dee-da-dee-da. Blood dripped down drop by drop. The air was filled with the smell of blood. Du Jiusheng. She suddenly turned around and said these 3 words in a trembling voice. "So it's 9th brother." Du Qichao's cold eyes turned as he forcefully stabbed forward. Because of the strength of the sword, the blood flowed even faster. In just a few seconds, the snow under her feet was dyed red. But Du Jiusheng's face was calm, not even knitting his brows. Yu Longqing, standing there, was stunned before saying, "Chao you can't do this. I'm not injured." "Senior sister." "I'm not injured," Lung Yu said sternly. "Have you forgotten the rules of Mount Sanqing? In Jianghu, righteousness comes first. Are you trying to make senior sister unrighteous?" Du Qichao coldly looked at Du Jiusheng before finally looking at Luo Qingshun. He gritted his teeth and pulled back his sword. Du Qichao snorted coldly and stood beside Yu Longqing with his hands behind his back. Du Jiusheng looked up and slowly said, "Greetings to your highness." "Humph." Du Qichao gave a soft snort as he looked at Du Jiusheng with eyes filled with ridicule. "People of the Cold Palace shouldn't come to the Eastern Palace. This highness doesn't want to see you." Du Jiusheng didn't say anything and just gave a slight bow. He took Luo Qingshun's hand and turned to leave. He used his bloodied hands to hold her palm tightly. The scorching temperature and sticky blood spread from his palm to her heart. It made her heart tremble and her mind turn blank. She didn't know why she had this feeling, but she was very afraid. She was afraid of the butterfly effect. She might lose Du Jiusheng if she wasn't careful, because she could clearly feel the strength of Du Jiusheng's grip on her hand. It was careful and firm. Chapter 2582. Moving forward, They passed the imperial garden and the fork in the road. When they reached the fork in the road, Luo Qingshun finally came back to her senses. She stopped and shouted, "Big brother Jiao Sheng." Du Jiao didn't turn back or stop. He just pulled her hand and walked towards the northern cold palace. At the entrance of a northern cold palace, Luo Qingshun couldn't help biting her lip as she said, "Big brother Jiao, why are you ignoring me?" Du Jiao suddenly turned around and took her into his embrace with his right hand. He desperately, tightly hugged her. "Big brother Jiao." Her body trembled and her eyes couldn't help turning red. The snow was still falling and her heart couldn't calm down. Without knowing why, this scene made her feel very sad. Du Jiao never responded to her. Luo Qingshun said while panting, "I'm afraid if you act like this. I'm the one who's afraid." His voice was very deep and cold as water as it entered her ears, with a trace of trembling in it. After all these years, he had no distractions after concubine Ro's death. The power and information he accumulated wasn't for anything. It was for him to have the power to fight back when he was harmed. But now that he had Luo Qingshun by his side, everything was different. He had to have a complete plan. No matter how great the danger or the trap, he had to protect her life. Therefore, when he saw Du Qichao about to kill him with his sword, he felt like his heart was about to stop. Fear and panic that he had never felt before spread from the bottom of his heart. Luo Qingshun couldn't finish her words as she choked up. What she wanted to say in her heart was, "What are you afraid of? I'm the one who's afraid, all right?" Without knowing how long passed, she only knew that his suffocating embrace gradually loosened, and she came back to her senses. His hand was still injured. "Your injury?" Luo Qingshun jumped out of his embrace and found that there was still a bit of blood coming from the wound. The mute slave had already brought the first aid kit over, and there was a faint layer of dust on it. This first aid kit was in the northern cold palace. It hadn't been used in a long time. "It's fine." Du Jiao shook his head and said, "Rather you. How did you beat Yulong Qing? I've heard that she is from the Yu generation of the Three Azure Mountains, the one with the strongest martial arts." He knew a little about the Crown Prince's affairs. Although it was not complete, he knew that the Crown Prince had fallen in love with someone from the Jianghu. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips and said, "I'm amazing. How powerful." Du Jiao hadn't seen her defeat Yu Qinglong, so he was always doubtful. She was once the daughter of a prefectural magistrate. How did she manage to defeat the people of Mount Sanqing? Let's not talk about this for now. Luo Qingshun waved her hand towards the mute slave and said, "Let's go inside. Give me the first aid kit. I'll help you both apply the medicine." If it was just based on the surface, Du Jiao injuries were more serious, and the Autumn Frost Sword was considered a good sword. Du Jiao grip was too strong, almost separating the pitiful white bones and flesh. But it was a good thing that there was only one injury. Although it was deep, it didn't affect his movement. But she didn't know if it would affect him holding the sword in the future, since it might have injured his nerves. As for the mute slave, his injuries were more serious than Luo Qingshun imagined. The most serious was his right leg. It was quite badly fractured. Chapter 2583. The mute slave heard this, and his expression didn't change at all. He just nodded and used his sign language to ask about Du Jiao injuries. In this situation, where he was more seriously injured, the first thing he cared about was Du Jiao injuries. "I'm fine." Du Jiao knit his brows and said, "Rest well for the next few days. Don't work." The mute slave wanted to refuse, but Luo Qingshun tied a knot in the bandage and said, "Just properly recover. It won't be easy to recover without 10 days to half a month." The mute slave stuttered as his voice choked up. He was grateful for everything in his life. There was Du Jiao and Luo Qingshun. In the evening, the brilliant purple and red glow filled the entire North Cold Palace. Although many things had happened today, there was a strange warmth in everyone's heart. Because there were 2 sick people at home, Luo Qingshun personally cooked dinner tonight. Although the dishes couldn't compare to Du Jiao and mute slaves, it wasn't bad. Du Jiusheng took 2 bites before nodding with a thoughtful look. Luo Qingshun was surprised and said, "What? Is it that bad?" Eh. The mute slave was wrapped in bandages, but he didn't forget to shake his head. Then he felt something was wrong and nodded. "What do you mean by shaking your head and nodding?" Luo Qingshun picked up the spoon with a frustrated look. When she was prepared to take a bite, Du Jiusheng said, "It means that our family's Qing Er's cooking is very good." "Wah, you two are working together to bully me." Luo Qingshun's eyes popped out, and she pretended to be angry as she looked at them. No. Du Jiusheng shook his head and said, "You're misunderstanding the mute slave. The mute slave means that your cooking is very good. Don't misunderstand." "Then what do you mean?" "I also mean that Qing Er's cooking is very good." "That's more like it." Luo Qingshun proudly raised her brows and said, "You two disabled people have to please me during this time. After all, this is related to whether you eat fish or what? Earth." As soon as his voice fell, Du Jiusheng revealed his first smile of the day. The mute slave was also laughing along with him. The dinner was filled with laughter and laughter. Even though they still had their own worries, it did not affect the harmonious atmosphere between them. What they didn't know was that the other 2 people in the Crown Prince's Eastern Palace had different thoughts. Du Qi Chao sat in front of the desk. The scene of Luo Qingshun and Yu Longqing's battle flashed through his mind. Every move of hers was too fast. It was so fast that he couldn't even see it clearly. She had already defeated Lung Yu. That was impossible. He was very familiar with Luo Qingshun. It was impossible for her to have such a high level of martial arts. Even if it was a metamorphosis, it couldn't have happened so quickly. This martial art must have been honed over several years or even several decades. It was impossible for it to undergo such a huge change in a single tide. Why? At the same time, in the Moon Dream Pavilion. This was the exclusive pavilion that Du Qi Chao built for Yu Longqing in the Eastern Palace. It was decorated in gold and jade. Yu Longqing's heart couldn't help throbbing at this moment. Everything that had happened at the entrance of the Eastern Palace replayed in her mind over and over again. She thought that it was because Luo Qingshun's strength that left a deep impression on her. But what was imprinted in her mind was Du Jiusheng's expression. When she saw Du Jiusheng for the first time, those indifferent and proud eyes made her feel like she was looking at herself. Chapter 2584. But she couldn't tell anyone about this feeling. Whether it was Du Qi Chao or Du Jiusheng, she couldn't tell them. Yu Qinglong closed her eyes and let that cold figure disappear from her mind. But even when she fell asleep, that figure didn't disappear. Because Du Jiusheng was injured, there were guests that kept coming to the Northern Cold Palace. There were maids and young mistresses. One moment, they delivered food. The next moment, they delivered medicine. There were even some who delivered blankets. Luo Qingshun thought that even if the Northern Cold Palace was a cold palace, it was still His Highness' palace. What is, can, lack, blankets, be? Miss Luo, I'll have to trouble you to help me give this blanket to Ninth Master. It's so cold, don't catch a cold. Luo Qingshun looked at the large blanket and said with a difficult smile, "All right." As soon as her voice fell, Luo Qingshun closed the door without any hesitation. Holding the blanket, she walked in without any expression. Du Jiusheng, who was preparing to head to the study, saw Luo Qingshun holding the blanket and didn't forget to say, "Why are there blankets again? You bought a lot of blankets in the past 2 days." "Bought?" Luo Qingshun laughed before revealing a cold smile. "Ninth Master, these are all blankets your fans gave you, and there are many ginseng supplements in the warehouse. Your life here is even better than the Crown Prince's." Du Jiusheng was surprised before he couldn't help saying with a smile, "You're not calling me Big Brother Jiusheng, but directly calling me Ninth Master." Du Jiusheng saw her jealous appearance, and his heart strangely filled with joy. This kind of life was really happy. It was really comfortable. To be able to live like this, not caring about the world and not caring about the nobles, how good would that be? Isn't it because Big Brother Jiusheng has too many fans? It angers me to death. Luo Qingshun held the blanket and stomped her feet. Although I have a bad temper, Miss Luo came to help me in my hour of need. I couldn't reject her. I had the mute slave reject them before, and sometimes he was too embarrassed to accept them. Du Jiusheng said with a smile, Qinger, if you mind, you don't need to accept them. Wah, Luo Qingchun said angrily. Easy for you to say? Don't you know that you don't hit a smiling person? Moreover, it's free stuff. Why wouldn't I want it? So our Qinger, is this thrifty? Du Jiusheng reached out to pat her head. So good. Knock, knock, knock. A familiar knocking sound was heard again. Luo Qingchun's lips that wanted to reveal a faint smile to Du Jiusheng suddenly froze when she heard the knock on the door. A beady in my ass. Luo Qingchun placed the quilt in Du Jiusheng's hand and said, I asked Ninth Master to help me put the quilt in the warehouse. In a few days, our northern cold palace will become rich. Du Jiusheng was surprised. Qinger, where are you going? Me? Luo Qingchun looked at him like he already knew the answer. Keep putting away the blankets. As soon as her voice fell, she headed towards the south gate. Du Jiusheng watched her leave, and his lips couldn't help curling into a faint smile. Everything warmed his heart. Which family's little maid is it? Luo Qingchun said this as she opened the door. She didn't know that it wasn't a maid, but rather a eunuch. Based on the mark on the eunuch's uniform, his rank shouldn't be low. Chapter 2585. Luo Qingchun could feel her heart skipping a beat as her mind went blank. But she had to pretend to be calm on the surface, afraid that the other side would see through her if she wasn't careful. I wonder what His Highness is looking for this servant for. Luo Qingchun looked up with a bit of liguang in her eyes. Eunuch Chen calmly looked down and said, Miss Luo should know that in the palace, the most taboo thing is to ask questions. Luo Qingchun knit her brows and didn't respond. Eunuch Chen continued, whatever the master says, the servants aren't qualified to ask and aren't qualified to say no. Seeing Eunuch Chen's meaningful gaze, Luo Qingchun felt even more unsettled. This old eunuch who had been in the palace for many years could see through his master's heart the best. She didn't have powers like before, so even if she had martial arts, she might not be able to break through the prison of the palace. Not to mention that there was still Du Jiusheng and the mute slave. I understand. Luo Qingchun gave a slight nod. Eunuch Chen, please wait a bit, I'll change my clothes. All right, miss, be quick. When she returned to the west wing, Luo Qingchun changed out of the clothes Du Jiusheng bought for her and put on the light pink palace-made clothes. Even her hair was combed into a palace-made sweater. Sitting in front of the bronze mirror, she closed her eyes and silently told herself that she couldn't be impulsive no matter what happened. The previous host carried the blood debt of 66 lives, so whenever she saw Du Chi Chao, there was an unspeakable hatred in her heart. She was afraid that she wouldn't be able to take it and would do something out of line. She had to keep reminding herself that she had someone important to protect. Being patient wasn't a sign of weakness. Rather, it was using the most silent method to protect the most important person. She took a deep breath and slowly opened the door. The fine snowflakes fell onto her face, and there was a familiar figure that appeared in front of her eyes. Big Brother Jiusheng. She trembled, and her voice trembled a bit when she called his name. It was like as long as she looked into his deep as ink eyes, nothing could be hidden from him. I don't go. Du Jiusheng raised his right hand to pat her head and looked at her with a gentle gaze. Let me take care of it. No. Luo Qingchun firmly shook her head. Since he wants to find me, there must be a reason. I don't want you to go. Du Jiusheng bit his lip. There was a faint sparkle in his eyes that flickered like the depths of the sea, just like the world in his heart. What kind of person was the crown prince? He was vicious and merciless, and would do anything to achieve his goals. The crown prince was the one responsible for the extermination of the Luo family. Now that he had summoned Luo Qingchun alone, how could he not be worried? Big Brother Jiusheng. Luo Qingchun took a deep breath and calmly looked at him as she said, Our strength right now isn't enough to go against the crown prince. Perhaps we can take revenge in the future, but not now. She knew that what she said was the truth, and she was using this truth to suppress Du Jiusheng. But how could Du Jiusheng not know that he couldn't go against the crown prince's orders right now? He wanted to use his life to protect her, all right? I don't agree. Seeing those beautiful eyes, Luo Qingshun knit her brows. She reached out her hands to hug him. Big brother Jiusheng, believe me, I will definitely come back. I will come back safely. Chapter 2586. When she opened the door, Eunuch Chun had been waiting outside for a long time. When she took a step, she didn't forget to turn to Du Jiusheng. In the snow, he stood there with his hands crossed. His eyes were faint, as they were filled with emotions that others couldn't understand. But she could understand, and she also understood. No matter how many thorns there were in front of her, she would work hard to live for him. After all, they still had so much time to spend together. Yes, they had to spend it together. From a northern cold palace to the eastern palace, it wasn't a long road, but Luo Qingshun felt like she had walked for an entire lifetime. That place was like the ghost fire of the underworld, making people feel fear. She admitted that she was really afraid. That Luo Qingshun who didn't fear death and had been through so many worlds was actually afraid. Moreover, she was afraid of death. How vulgar. Miss, please come this way. Eunuch Chin brought her in through the side door, but they didn't meet any maids. It seemed like when she came, Du Chi Chao had sent everyone away, so he didn't want Ling Qing to know. He really was a meticulous person. People who were cruel and merciless in this world weren't terrifying. What was terrifying were people with thoughts and methods. Eunuch Chin stopped in front of a stone wall and slowly moved forward to turn a switch on the wall. The door opened with a shio sound. Miss, please come in. His Highness is waiting for you inside. Eunuch Chin softly said, This servant won't be going in. Luo Qingshun looked at the secret room behind the stone wall and couldn't help giving a cold laugh. Your Highness' meeting place really is strange. Miss, don't forget. Eunuch Chin replied, In this palace, there are only master's arrangements. This servant doesn't ask. Luo Qingshun heard this and knit her brows. She didn't say anything else as she walked into the secret room. After passing through a narrow passageway, an exquisite study room appeared before his eyes. Du Chi Chao was sitting at the desk, writing something with a brush. After hearing the footsteps, a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. You're here? This servant greets Your Highness the Crown Prince. Luo Qingshun respectfully bowed. Her gaze was indifferent, and even her tone didn't fluctuate in the slightest. With the relationship between you and this Highness, you don't need to call yourself a servant. He nodded slightly. His eyes narrowed as he looked at her clear but cold eyes, his heart filled with doubt. Although he didn't like Luo Qingshun back then, he knew what kind of person she was. The prefectural magistrate's daughter was arrogant, willful, and pretentious. She had once reprimanded his most important senior sister in the Crown Prince's Eastern Palace, but she had paid the price for it. That's right, the price of his entire family. Replying to Your Highness the Crown Prince, this servant is this servant. Qingqin knows that the Luo family has sinned deeply. She slightly lowered her eyes and took a deep breath. Now that they have received their retribution, this servant wants to live the rest of her life peacefully. The moment she said this, she felt as if there was a huge stone blocking her heart. But she knew that she had to say this. Sin deeply. Du Chi Chao repeated these 4 words. He looked at Luo Qingshun with an evil smile and said, How do you know that you have sinned deeply? He was testing her. Chapter 2587. She didn't know if this kind of confession would work or not, but in this atmosphere, she could feel Du Chi Chao's killing intent. But you just said that you wanted to live a peaceful life. Du Chi Chao narrowed his eyes. Because of ninth brother? Du Chi Chao looked at her with a scrutinizing gaze, wanting to see some clues from her indifferent eyes. He always felt that he didn't care about the remaining life of the prefectural magistrate's daughter. But after yesterday, he found that he cared a bit. He cared about why she had changed so much and cared about the relationship between her and Du Jiusheng. Today, she had changed into a maid's uniform, and yesterday, she was wearing her own clothes. This was enough to prove that she had come prepared today. For someone with his personality, once he had doubts in his heart, he would explore them. Just like back at 3 Clear Mountain, once he decided to love Yulong Qing, He would do anything to love her. This servant isn't familiar with the ninth king. Luo Qingchun said, "There is only order and obedience between the master and the servant. This servant understands this." Du Qichao narrowed his eyes as he looked at Luo Qingchun, not speaking for a long time. Luo Qingchun had thought about everything she said at least 3 times in her mind. There shouldn't be any loopholes. Although she didn't know why Du Qichao had her come today, his silence proved that there was no problem with her words. Good words. Du Qichao coldly raised his hand and put down the pen and paper in his hand. I wonder if the Lord Prefectural Magistrate was too obedient to his master, resulting in his entire family being executed. At this moment, she could feel the flames burning in the depths of her heart, but her expression was still as indifferent as ever. Du Qichao was trying to goad him into action. His thoughts were actually so vicious. The entire Luo family was executed. 66 lives weren't worth mentioning in his eyes. But now, in order to test her bottom line, Du Qichao couldn't help using this matter to force her to reveal her true form. After all, in Du Qichao's heart, her martial arts that day were unfathomable. No matter how he thought about it, he had absolute reason to doubt it. The person standing in front of him wasn't Luo Qingchun, or it wasn't the original Luo Qingchun. How could a woman like this servant understand the matters of the court? Luo Qingchun pretended to sigh. It's just fate. Even if her heart was burning with the flames of hatred, she didn't show it at all. Du Qichao was testing her, and she was enduring it. When fire and ice collided violently, the one who was more stable would be the final victor. After a long silence, Luo Qingchun knew that she won. This servant will always be a servant. After a while, Luo Qingchun, Luo 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 Luo, Luo Luo Luo, Luo Luo, Luo Luo of Luo Luo, Luo Luo Luo, Luo O O O Luo Luo, Luo O O O O Luo O O O O O. He knew that Luo Qingchun didn't reveal her bottom line, but he didn't have a way to test her bottom line. There was plenty of time in the future. Even if they were in the palace, there would be a breakthrough. Du Jiusheng, Luo Qingchun. He really didn't believe that the two of them only had a master and servant relationship. After all, the scene of Du Jiusheng holding a sword to protect her was still fresh in his mind. Chapter 2588. Opening the door to the secret room, when the light from the snow reflected in her eyes, she let out a long sigh of relief. So tired, facing enemies with deep blood feuds. Not only couldn't she kill them, she had to bow down. Standing here, she couldn't help asking herself in her heart, was she still that fearless Luo Qingchun who wouldn't back down no matter what happened? With a weakness, it would become his armor. Du Jiusheng had died many times for her and protected her many times. She had to compromise in exchange for his peace. What was wrong with that? She was attached to this world because this world had him. It seems like the miss has done what this servant told the miss. Eunuch Chun saw that she came out safe and revealed a happy smile. Luo Qingchun gave the letter in her hand to Eunuch Chun and said, "Eunuch Chun is helping me?" When she was compared to Du Qichao, she had been stunned. But thinking of what Eunuch Chun had said to her, she suddenly understood that she should use this master and servant relationship to turn this crisis into an opportunity. The Lord Magistrate has helped this servant before. Eunuch Chun calmly said, "Although this servant is working for His Highness, I can't forget the kindness of an old friend." As soon as his voice fell, Eunuch Chun took the letter and said, "The Mo Kingdom situation isn't settled, and the world is in chaos. Miss, you must remember to protect yourself and endure when necessary." Luo Qingchun was surprised before nodding after a while. "I know. Many thanks, Eunuch Chun." On the way back to the northern cold palace, the snow gradually became lighter. The sun broke through the clouds and shined down on her face. Although it wasn't warm, it lit up the haze in her heart. Standing at the familiar fork in the road, there was an endless corridor. She closed her eyes and felt the silence of the northern cold palace, feeling the beauty of this place. The cold wind blew in her ears as she thought about what she should say when she saw Du Jiusheng. Should she say, "Look, I said I would come back safely"? so I came back safely. Or should she say, Big Brother Jiusheng, I came back from the Eastern Palace. It was so boring. Or perhaps, it's just His Highness the Crown Prince. I can see through his little scheme at a glance. Little did she know that before she could think clearly, she had fallen into a warm embrace. Du Jiusheng had a familiar mint scent with a touch of coolness, but she felt very warm when he hugged her. Qing, I'm really afraid. Du Jiusheng held her tightly, and his arms were trembling. He said word for word, I don't know why I became like this. I don't even know if I'm still me. But I know. I really don't have the courage to let you leave me. In the beginning, he didn't understand the meaning, but in the end, he didn't need to. He did not care why she approached him. He only knew that if she approached him, she had to get close to him and not leave halfway. We'll be fine. We'll keep going. After thinking about so many things, she finally said this sentence, a completely different sentence. She was willing to walk down this path with him. No matter how difficult the situation was, as long as he was there, it was fine even if there was no one. He could choose not to take revenge. He could choose not to kill Du Qichao. He could choose not to care about Yulunqing. Chapter 2589. When Du Jiusheng said this, Luo Qingchen panicked. Her thoughts were completely different from what Du Jiusheng said. She wanted to live a peaceful life, but Du Jiusheng suddenly had another idea. Big Brother Jiusheng, what do you want to do? Luo Qingchen said, Oh, right. Are you here to pick me up? I just sent Yulunqing off. Du Jiusheng softly let her go and said with a frown, I never thought that she would come to the Northern Cold Palace after the Crown Prince sent you to the Eastern Palace. Luo Qingchen was surprised before saying with a frown, What did she come to the Northern Cold Palace for? This Yulunqing was quite interesting. She didn't look like Maurice or a little white flower. At most, she was a cold girl. If she wasn't on the opposite side, she wouldn't be hostile to her or even hate her. But this time she came to the Northern Cold Palace. She couldn't understand her at all. She sent some medicine. Du Jiusheng softly said, It seems like she came to apologize for what happened yesterday. What? Send medicine? Apologize? Why did she send medicine to Big Brother Jiusheng? Luo Qingchen angrily put her hands on her waist. It's clear that she covets Big Brother Jiusheng's beauty. His heart was tested. Qing, there's a problem with this word. He took her hand and shook off the snow on her before leading her forward. No problem, no problem. Although Luo Qingchen followed Du Jiusheng, she didn't forget to say, This Yulunqing must have fallen for Big Brother Jiusheng. Don't worry. He revealed a faint smile as a sparkle appeared in his eyes. I don't like her. He had always lived alone in the palace, not caring about politics, not caring about his future, and not caring about marriage. Loneliness was a helpless part of his life, until she appeared, and all the bitterness was broken by happiness. How could he like anyone else? Of course I know that Big Brother Jiusheng doesn't like her. Luo Qingchen slightly knit her brows and pursed her lips. I'm worried about the Crown Prince. He was such a vicious and merciless person who would do anything to achieve his goal. If she knew that his most beloved Yulunqing was sending medicine to Du Jiusheng, the consequences would be unimaginable. I know. Du Jiusheng held her right hand and softly rubbed her palm. So, there are some things that have to be resolved. His voice was slightly low, but his grip on her hand was especially tight. What do you want to do? Luo Qingchen felt like her heart was in her throat. This Du Jiusheng made her even more afraid. Because whether it was the current situation in the imperial court, the favoritism of the imperial harem, or the struggle between the north and the south, the empress and the crown prince both had absolute power. So if Du Jiusheng wanted to go against the crown prince, it would be like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. She couldn't help him at all. If she hadn't come to this plane when the Luo family had been annihilated, and if she had come half a year earlier, she might have had a private plane. But now, she had no ability, no system, and no family. Even with her martial arts, she couldn't stop 100 guards. She was afraid that she couldn't protect him. Qing, he softly called her name. Standing at the entrance of the Northern Cold Palace, he looked at her with deep eyes. Since you chose to stand by my side, I'm not willing to let you live in fear. When the crown prince called her away, he was even more determined in his thoughts. Since he wanted to keep her by his side, no matter who it was, they weren't qualified to call her away. Chapter 2590. I'm not afraid. Luo Qingshan took a deep breath as her eyes trembled. The crown prince is too strong now. Just the two of us aren't enough to fight him. You don't need to worry, Du Jiusheng said with a chuckle. I won't put you in danger. But you will put yourself in danger, right? Luo Qingshan let go of his hand and seriously said word for word. If something happens to you, and I'm called away by the crown prince, you won't be able to pick me up. Pick me up. Her voice strangely choked up when she said the last few words. If it wasn't for the two of them being able to live peacefully, she wouldn't have needed to compromise at all. She didn't need to compromise at all. She could even take revenge for the blood feud of the original owner without hesitation. But because she wanted to live a peaceful life with Du Jiusheng, she had worked so hard and sacrificed so much. Seeing her red eyes and aggrieved look, he quickly reached out to hug her. Don't be angry. Don't be angry. I definitely won't put myself in danger. Just keeping a low profile doesn't mean that others won't come to harm us. The forces that he had accumulated over the years were all for the sake of protecting himself one day. But now it seemed like protecting himself wasn't suitable. Humph! Luo Qingshan gave a soft snort in his embrace. You have to promise me that you will take me with you no matter what you do. Didn't the ancient vows say, you can't be born on the same day, month, and year, but you can die on the same day, month, and year? If the heavens didn't let her have a perfect ending, dying together was considered a perfect ending for her. All right. Du Jiusheng nodded and softly patted her head. Is our little sister Qingchen's anger appeased? I wasn't angry. Luo Qingshan took Du Jiusheng's hand back and said, I'm still afraid. Although she was only in her teens in this world, her heart was already an old monster. She was old, and her heart was not in good condition. Especially after the tragic incident, she would feel her heart pounding violently whenever the wind blew. It's my fault. I shouldn't have made you so worried, Du Jiusheng said with a sigh. I will slowly take back what belongs to us while ensuring our safety. Of course, this included the 66 lives of the Luo clan. Who was the murderer? Whether it was Luo Qingshan or him, they both knew. His last didn't want to take revenge because he didn't want her to be in danger, but he had no choice but to take revenge for her. All right, Luo Qingshan said with a nod. Big brother Jiusheng is right. This time, the crown prince summoned me. I was able to use words to avoid him, but I can't guarantee that there won't be a second time. Indeed, they couldn't allow themselves to be so passive. However, if they were to fight head-on, the difference in power was too great. She didn't know what Du Jiusheng's plan was, but to ensure the safety of the two of them, they had to take precautions. Yes, it's good that you're not angry, Du Jiusheng said with a chuckle. In order to compensate for little sister Qingchen's fear today, I'll personally cook lunch for you. Your hand is still injured. Luo Qingshan pursed her lips and said, Let me do it. Although I don't have the style of a chef, I can still eat it. Let's do it together. Du Jiusheng patted her head before heading in. But she didn't know that when she opened the door, she smelled the fragrance of food. Chapter 2591. After a happy lunch, the mute slave's face was much better. Although his foot wasn't completely healed, it recovered faster than Luo Qingshan imagined. After lunch, the three of them leaned against the fireplace in the study. She hugged the little doll and closed her eyes, enjoying this comfortable time. Du Jiusheng wrote a letter on the desk and had the mute slave come to the south gate at midnight to give the letter to the person who came to pick it up. Big brother Jiusheng. Is the person who picked up the letter and the person who delivered it the same? Du Jiusheng said with a nod. It's the border's deputy, General Suyu. Luo Qingshan gave a slight nod at first, but after a few seconds, she thought of something and suddenly opened her eyes to ask, The young deputy, General Suyu? Yes, Du Jiusheng said with a nod. My life and death friend. God, it's actually him. Qinger, do you know him? Luo Qingshan shook her head and said, I don't know him, but I've heard father mention this person before. When he was 14 years old, he went to the battlefield. After the main general of the army was captured, He led a dozen or so of his personal guards to go around the enemy's rear and capture the enemy's general. The enemy's formation fell into chaos, and not only did they lose, they even gave up a city. From that time on, the name Suyu was known by the entire world. The emperor was overjoyed and gave him the inscription, Young Heroes, promoting him to the rank of deputy general. So far, as long as Suyu participated in a war, he would win. The mute slave saw Luo Qingchen's surprise and began dancing on the side, as he described. Although Luo Qingchen didn't understand, he seemed to be praising Du Jiusheng. Mute slave, let me say it. Du Jiusheng said with a soft laugh. I've known Suyu since we were young. He is Little Master Wan's little brother. He entered the palace with Little Master Wan in the early years and found a job. Luo Qingchen spent an hour listening to Du Jiusheng talk about the story between him and Suyu. It really was wonderful. Of course, for her big brother, Jiusheng. She worshipped him even more. After young Mistress Wan entered the palace, she didn't receive the emperor's blessing. She became depressed and left the human world early. At that time, Xiaorou hadn't fallen out of favor, and Du Jiusheng was still a respected prince. The first time he saw Suyu, he was being beaten up by a dozen people. Those people were many years older than him, and they were all soldiers of the martial arts practice field. Naturally, it would be easy for them to beat up a child. Du Jiusheng didn't plan on helping when he passed by, since this kind of bullying was too common in the palace. He was not an incarnation of justice, and it was impossible for him to help everyone. But what he didn't expect was that Suyu, who was knocked down, suddenly jumped up from the ground. He began to beat up the group of soldiers, and in a few seconds, they were all knocked to the ground. He wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth and said, "Do you want more? Attack together." Du Jiusheng and Suyu were like Bo Lu and a horse. When they first spoke, they felt like they were old friends. Since then, they often exchanged pointers in the martial arts practice field. Du Jiusheng's martial arts were naturally above Suyu's, but he saw a special power in Suyu. Although his foundation wasn't good, he had an explosive power. Surviving in a desperate situation, this was a power that was very hard to obtain in the army. When marching to war, it was hard to avoid difficulties. At that time, whether you died on the battlefield or fought to survive, you relied on this kind of explosive power. While Du Jiusheng taught him martial arts, he also taught him how to arrange troops while marching. Chapter 2592. When Suyu went to the battlefield for the first time, he came to find Du Jiusheng and gave all his precious things to Du Jiusheng, because he didn't know if he could come back alive. He was just a small guard captain, and there were only a few guards with him. The head general wasn't a capable person. He had already lost 6 battles before this battle, and the morale of the soldiers was low. Adding in the fact that they had met a strong enemy this time, he wasn't afraid. After all, he had no achievements, and there was no one he cared about in this life. Du Jiusheng was currently in the northern cold palace, not caring about worldly matters. When he looked at the map that Suyu was going to fight on, he pointed at a vein between the mountains and said, "Have your guards guard this vein. The enemy's supplies will definitely pass through here. If you can't compare to the enemy, think of a way to break through this vein." Before leaving, Du Jiusheng's analysis changed Suyu's life. No matter how hard the battlefield was, no matter how fierce the place was, Suyu never forgot to have half of his guards guard the vein that Du Jiusheng mentioned. In the end, the head general was captured, and Suyu went through the vein that he had guarded to kill the enemy leader. Since then, Suyu had become a hero of the Mo kingdom. He wanted to tell the emperor that this was all thanks to Du Jiusheng. He wanted to bring him out of the northern cold palace and let the emperor put him in an important position again. But Du Jiusheng told him that if he told the emperor everything, there would be many people who would want to kill him. Then again, the matters of the court didn't involve the harem, which wasn't a good thing. Suyu listened to him, and many military strategies were taught to him by Du Jiusheng. He quietly built up his own forces in the army and told everyone who followed him that there was a mysterious person behind him. This mysterious military advisor was the key to everyone's victory. Although he didn't tell them that this person was Du Jiusheng, he had already planted the image of the mysterious military advisor in their hearts, becoming a god in their hearts. Hearing Du Jiusheng's story, Luo Qingchen was a bit fascinated. So Du Jiusheng's power and intelligence network were all related to this young hero Su Yu. So big brother Jiu Sheng wants him to help deal with the crown prince? Luo Qingchen blinked and asked. Although he is a deputy general, he doesn't have a command seal. It won't be easy for him to deal with the crown prince. Not really. Du Jiusheng shook his head. I just used the information he gave me to analyze the current situation and what the crown prince might do to us. Ever since yesterday's clash of blades and today's Qi dynasty summoning Luo Qingchen to the Eastern Palace, he felt more and more that the crown prince wanted to deal with them. Perhaps it was because she didn't like him, or perhaps it was because he glanced at Luo Qingchen and his heart sank. Was her battle with Yu Lingqing yesterday too dazzling? Had she caught the crown prince's eye? After all, there had never been a woman in his heart. But Luo Qingchen was like a ray of light, desperately shining into his life. But now, if he did not have this light, he felt that he would not be able to live. So, did Su Yu come to you for help this time? Luo Qingchen rested her chin on her hand and asked, is the battle at the front line not very optimistic? Chapter 2593. So, what kind of trouble did Su Yu encounter this time to write a letter to you? Luo Qingchen pursed her lips as she asked this. Du Jiusheng gave a slight nod. Although the Qin country's warhorses are strong, the Qin country isn't planning on becoming enemies with us. When analyzing a matter, Du Jiusheng would become very serious, and he looked very good when he was serious. Luo Qingchen held her cheeks and looked at Du Jiusheng for a long time, looking like she didn't get tired of looking at him. Since they don't want to be enemies with us, why is the war so intense? The Qin country and Liao have a reconcilable hatred. The Qin country's previous king was killed by Liao's great general Meng Shi. Du Jiusheng slightly knit his brows. This time the Qin country is fighting with us. On the surface, it's to take the Dragon Gate Pass, but it's actually to investigate our forces. Big brother Jiusheng's meaning is, the Qin country is on good terms with us. Yes, Du Jiusheng said with a nod. I heard Su Yu say that he saw a tall and slender vice general on the battlefield. If my guesses aren't wrong, she should be the Qin country's princess, Chen Yao Yao. What? Luo Qingchen said in a surprised voice. A woman on the battlefield. It seems like the Qin country is quite open. In ancient times, Mulan joined the army for her father. This isn't strange. Du Jiusheng replied. I told Su Yu that we lured the tiger away from the mountain to capture Chen Yao Yao. What? You captured Chen Yao Yao? Du Jiusheng's words surprised Luo Qingchen. After all, capturing the Qin country's princess wasn't a small matter. The Qin country's king wants to be on good terms with us, so a marriage is the best way. Du Jiusheng curled his lips into a smile. The emperor also knows a bit about this. There should be a result in a few days. Marriage? Luo Qingchen was surprised. With the crown prince? Other than the crown prince, there should be no one else in the Mo country that is worthy of Chen Yao Yao. Du Jiusheng said with a nod. After all, Chen Yao Yao is the Qin country's eldest princess. He. Luo Qingchen gave two laughs when she heard this. Why do I suddenly feel like there's a play to watch? You. Du Jiusheng said with a smile. You have quite a few thoughts. Big brother Jiusheng, you don't understand. Luo Qingchen crossed her arms and said, this is called evil people will be punished by the heavens. At the same time, the Eastern Palace. Du Qichao naturally received this news and knew it before Du Jiusheng. But this unpleasant news was soon followed by another. The guards he sent to protect Yu Lingqing 24 hours a day came to report that Yu Lingqing had changed into a set of plain clothes and was heading to the northern cold palace. After hearing this news, his eyes were instantly covered with a layer of ice, and his entire body emitted a cold aura that prevented people from approaching him. Even when Yu Lingqing returned to the palace, the chill didn't dissipate. Senior sister, where did you go? His voice was very low, but because it was a cold moon, he did not dare to lose his temper. Yu Lingqing looked up and didn't hide anything as she softly said, I went to the North Cold Palace. Perhaps because of Yu Lung Qing's honesty, Du Jiuyu wasn't that angry. He cleared his throat and said, "What did senior sister go to the cold palace for?" Chapter 2594. So, senior sister thinks that I'm a villain? Du Qichao's eyes instantly turned dark as a sinister look appeared in them. Yu Lung Qing saw that he was a bit angry and wanted to ignore him, but she was afraid that he would affect others. So she shook her head and said, "You, sometimes you're just a bit willful. Don't you know my personality? If I think it's right, I'll do it." Back then, senior uncle said that I wasn't slick enough. Senior sister, Du Qichao said with a sigh, "I know your personality. I misunderstood you." In front of Yu Lung Qing, Du Qichao could always put down his anger and call himself in front of her. "There's no misunderstanding. I won't hide it from you." Yu Lung Qing rubbed her temples. "I'm a bit tired. I'll go rest for a bit." "All right, I'll call you for dinner." Watching Yu Lung Qing leave, his feelings became more complicated. He always felt that the things that he had worked so hard to obtain were things that the Prince of the Cold Palace had effortlessly gained her attention. This feeling was very uncomfortable. Of course, with his personality, if he didn't do anything, wouldn't it be a waste of his ruthless name? "Someone, Your Highness." "Summon Eunuch Chun." "Yes." Du Qichao and Eunuch Chun stayed in the study for close to 2 hours before Eunuch Chun left the Eastern Palace. The next day, Luo Qingchun received an anonymous letter. There were only a few words on the letter. "Please follow the Ninth King at all times and disguise yourself when necessary." Luo Qingchun's heart skipped a beat, and she became even more unsettled after reading the letter. She didn't know which noble was helping them, but she knew that someone wanted to harm them. There were countless eyes in the palace staring at them, and the one who wanted them dead the most was the crown prince Du Qichao. Du Jiusheng was right. Instead of waiting for death, it was better to take a gamble. The night she had this idea, she had a dream. There was a magnificent palace in the dream with 7-8 maids standing on both sides. There was a person standing beside her, and that person's face was very blurry. She couldn't see it clearly. But when she stood beside him, she felt very assured. Little did she know, in the next second, the scene changed to night. She lay on the bed. Outside the window, the thunder was deafening and the rain was pouring down. She felt her heart skip a beat as she woke up. Sitting on the bed, his forehead was covered in sweat and his heart was thumping. Even his fingertips were unconsciously trembling. That feeling was as if all the fear in his heart had been released in an instant, and it was unstoppable. Pong! The door to her room was opened, and Du Jiusheng quickly came in. Seeing her pale face, he anxiously asked, "What is it? What happened?" The moment he heard her shout, he woke up from his dream. He had practically rushed over, deeply afraid that something had happened. Humans, sure enough, once they had someone to think about, they would become especially sensitive. After his mother's death, he allowed himself to have no worries, because only then could he stand in the most rational position and make the most correct judgment. But now, he knew that he couldn't do it. If there was a day when only one of them could survive, he would definitely do his best to let her live. Because he wanted to be her armor, and he also wanted to be her hero. Chapter 2595. "No, nothing." Luo Qingchun shook her head. "I had a dream." "A nightmare?" Du Jiusheng sat beside her and softly patted her head. It's fine. Luo Qingchun knit her brows and slowly leaned her head on his shoulder. "I don't know if it was a nightmare or not, but my heart was filled with panic. It was like the world was collapsing. That was a terrifying feeling. Even the hairs on her body stood on end when she remembered it." You've been tired recently." Du Jiusheng's eyes were gentle as he patted her back. "Don't think too much. I'm here." He already had his own plans, but it wasn't time yet. There were many things that needed to fuse. He knew that while he was planning, the Crown Prince was also planning. He hugged Luo Qingchun and thought, no matter what the result is this time, the great Mo kingdom will change. 7 days later, the Qin country sent a friendly envoy to the Mo kingdom. The Mo kingdom that had been beaten back didn't hesitate to agree to this when they heard this news. They even decided to let the Mo Kingdom's crown prince, Du Chi-chao, marry the Chun country's princess, Chen Yao Yao. Du Chi-chao rejected the emperor's decree, angering the aloof Mo king to the point of being bedridden. The next day in the crown prince's eastern palace, Du Chi-chao was sitting in the pavilion drinking wine, feeling a bit irritated. Today, in the main hall, he had rejected her a little too quickly. Emotional matters had always occupied a large part of his heart. He didn't think too much about it, so he didn't even notice the look the empress gave him. After all these years, he had removed countless obstacles, but in the end, he had lost to a woman. What a joke! What a joke! Chower, so you were here. Yu Longqing slowly came over from not far away and sat down beside him. The empress is waiting for you in the study. Go over. She came to persuade you? Du Chi-chao said with a cold laugh. Based on senior sister's appearance, she agreed to persuade you. Why was it that the person he loved didn't care about the things he cared about? He had worked so hard and even disobeyed the imperial order, but he did not feel the slightest bit moved by the other party. Yu Longqing would never know that disobeying the emperor's order this time might cause all his previous efforts to go down the drain. Chower, the empress is right. Yu Longqing looked at her indifferently. I'm ultimately someone from the pugilistic world. The position of crown princess shouldn't be mine. The princess of the state of Chun is the ruler of the state of Chun. Between the two states, I really don't need senior sister to tell me these great principles. Du Chi-chao sneered. I just want to know what is in your heart. Is it the so-called blood feud or someone I don't know? Yu Longqing was taken aback as her expression changed slightly. At this moment, Du Chi-chao saw her change. He picked up the wine on the table and finished it in one gulp. Senior sister, I know what to do now. His words contained too many profound meanings, so lengthened you couldn't understand them all at once. However, that pair of sharp phoenix eyes looked so ruthless. She knew what kind of person he was when she first met him, but he finally avenged her family. No matter the reason, he was her benefactor. Ciao. Chapter 2596. There were dark clouds in the sky. It seemed like it was going to rain. Luo Qingshun put away the quilt in the yard and ran to the study to see the letter Du Jiusheng received. Did Vice General Su Yu write a letter to Big Brother Jiusheng again? She hugged the quilt and looked very cute when she poked her head in. Du Jiusheng reached out to pull her to his side and wrapped her in the quilt. Chen Yao Yao is already in the palace. The Eastern Palace? No. Du Jiusheng shook his head. The Ning Palace. Luo Qingshun put her hands on her cheeks, and her face was a bit red from being wrapped in the quilt. Her eyes trembled as she said, It's actually the Ning Palace. It seems like His Highness is quite infatuated with Yu Longqing. She had seen many supporting male leads in the past, but this was her first time seeing someone with Du Chi-chao's personality. That will depend on what Du Chi-chao chooses. Du Jiusheng narrowed his cold eyes, and his lips curled into a faint smile. If he really goes against the emperor's orders, the position of crown prince. No, I don't think he will. Luo Qingshun shook her head and analyzed. It is true that he loves Yu Longqing, but it is also true that he lusts after the throne. Although she didn't understand Du Chi-chao, she understood the personality of people like him. For love, they would do anything to exterminate innocent families and deceive the people they loved. Then it was the same for the throne. Vanity was too important to them. Other than him, as the crown prince, the other princes were either in the cold palace or on the border. He must have done quite a bit of things. Then Qing, or what do you think I would choose? Du Jiusheng looked over with a pair of deep starry eyes that were filled with gentleness. Looking into his eyes, Luo Qingshun replied without any hesitation. If it was Big Brother Jiusheng, I hope that no matter what the situation is, he would prioritize his own life. No. Du Jiusheng rejected her without any hesitation. He raised his right hand to touch her face. I want to prioritize your life. Big Brother Jiusheng. Qinger. He looked at her very seriously. His tone was somewhat helpless, but it was filled with affection as he said to her, It's not that I have to do this, but I have already fallen very, very deep. Seeing his beloved, Lovesickness seeped into his bones, consigned to eternal damnation. All things in the world could not compare to her. This was his life's definition of love. Luo Qingqian's eyes turned a bit red when she saw Du Jiusheng like this. Even if it was just a moment, she would cherish this moment. If she could spend 10 or 20 years in peace, it would be a kind of satisfaction for her. However, the road ahead was full of thorns and obstacles. Only by overthrowing the crown prince could they find stability. However, it was definitely not an easy task for them. Big brother Jiusheng, do you think we will live for a very, very long time? Luo Qingqian looked up and asked an answer that she didn't know she would never get. I don't know, Du Jiusheng softly said, but as long as I'm alive, you will definitely be alive. If I don't live, I will protect you, a couple for the rest of our lives. His gentle confession, at that time, moved her heart with every word. Some people were destined to be the other side's burden. Do you know? Luo Qingqian took a deep breath before saying in a trembling voice, I really have waited a long time for you, so you can't die. You definitely can't. She was so aggrieved because she wanted to live a normal life, fulfilling her dream of being with Du Jiusheng. Chapter 2597. 3 days later, the emperor's coronation was set for the 13th day of the next month. Chen Yao had been living in the Ning Palace since she entered the palace. It was said that Du Qichao would visit her in the Ning Palace from time to time. The two of them got along well, and the emperor was in a good mood. Not only did he reward the Eastern Palace with many things, he also praised the crown prince. Since there were no battles on the border, Suyu returned to Mo and city with the army. After Du Jiusheng received the letter, he was in a very good mood. Big brother Jiusheng and Vice General Su shouldn't have seen each other in a long time. Luo Qingqian folded the letter. Seeing that he was in a good mood, she was also happy. Du Jiusheng said with a nod. It's been almost a year. He always came to drink with him before leaving, and Suyu had said that he was his only brother in this life. Now that I've returned, I also want to meet this invincible great general. All right, I'll bring you with me. Du Jiusheng said with a faint smile, but you can't drink. It's not good for a girl to drink. It's fine if we don't drink and eat. Luo Qingqian pursed her lips and said, I'm hungry. He saw her cute appearance and raised his right hand, tapping her forehead as he said, all right. When they came out of the study, the mute slave quickly came over. His expression was a bit nervous. Seeing this expression, Luo Qingqian's heart suddenly tightened. Before the mute slave could finish, a person wearing the Imperial Guard uniform came forward and said, His Highness has an order. I'll have to trouble Ninth Master and this lowly one to discuss something. Crown Prince. It was the Crown Prince again. All right, please wait a minute. Du Jiusheng calmly said, I'll change my clothes and go with you. Ninth Master isn't in a rush. This lowly one is just here to pass on a message. That person continued, There will be someone to pick up Ninth Master in an hour. Wait. Luo Qingqian narrowed her cold eyes and said, Ninth Master has me and the mute slave taking care of him. I wonder if we can go with Ninth Master. At that moment, Luo Qingqian suddenly thought of the secret letter she had received. It was better to believe the things mentioned in the book than not. Forget about the palace maids. If Lord Jiu is worried, it's not a problem to bring a few eunuchs. That person smiled and said, The palace maids are careless and like to gossip. It was written in the letter that he could disguise himself as a woman when necessary. Did this mean that the person who wrote the letter already knew that His Highness would summon Du Jiusheng? What a benefactor. After that person left, Luo Qingqian looked at Du Jiusheng. I'll go with you. The mute slave also felt the danger, so he didn't intend to let Luo Qingqian go. Mute slave, you can come with me. Du Jiusheng softly patted her head. Not to mention, didn't he say that the maids aren't allowed to go? Actually, Du Jiusheng also felt this was strange, but he couldn't think of a reason for it. No, I must have it. Luo Qingqian thought of what the secret letter said, and she bit her lip. I can wear the mute slave's clothes. Since there was a benefactor who took such a big risk to tell them about the upcoming danger. If they were careless, and fell into a situation of no return, they couldn't blame the heavens for being unfair. Qing'er, I don't want you to go, you know that. Du Jiusheng said in a sunken voice. The risk this time is unknown. Chapter 2598. Sometimes, threats were more useful than reason. Du Jiusheng agreed in the end, but his thoughts were different from hers. Since the crown prince had his eyes on her, it wasn't safe to keep her in the northern cold palace. All right, but you have to listen to me no matter what. Du Jiusheng knit his brows. That Du Qichao is definitely an enemy. He's more dangerous than we imagined. What important discussion. He didn't believe a single word. But he didn't know what this ruthless crown prince wanted to do. This seemed like a game of chess. Both sides were prepared. But in the crown prince's eyes, he would definitely succeed. But for Du Jiusheng, in this life and death game, if they made a single wrong move, they would lose everything. After an hour, Luo Qingshun changed into the eunuch uniform and changed her appearance to avoid being recognized. There was a sedan outside the door, and the people around it were very polite to Du Jiusheng. This kind of politeness made Luo Qingshun feel that this matter wasn't simple. Luo Qingshun followed the sedan and watched as they stopped the sedan at the back of the building. This was the Grace Pavilion. Although it wasn't a cold palace, there were very few people who came here. Ninth Master, please come this way. He softly replied. There was a complicated look in his eyes that people couldn't see through. For Luo Qingshun, she didn't like this feeling. It was like she was fish on the chopping board. She knew that the other side had a trick, but she couldn't resist. She could only survive in adversity and hope for a miracle in adversity. The guard stopped in front of a private room on the third floor and said with a bow, His Highness is waiting for Ninth Master inside. Please come in, Ninth Master. There was no movement and no assassins. In this situation, Du Jiusheng and Luo Qingshun couldn't find a proper reason to resist, even if they wanted to. Du Jiusheng's left hand pulled Luo Qingshun behind him, making her take a step back. His right hand slowly opened the door. The room was very quiet. There weren't any hidden weapons or assassins that appeared. The crown prince is inside. The guard cupped his hands and said, I'll take my leave first. Du Jiusheng didn't respond as he narrowed his cold eyes and walked into the room. In the next second, the melodious sound of a guqin came from behind the soft screen in the room. The zither music was mellow and beautiful, but it also carried the vast sound of mountains and rivers. Luo Qingshun frowned slightly. She smelled a trace of rouge and powder in the air. By the time she regained her senses, the door had been slammed shut behind her with a bang. Who's behind the screen? Luo Qingshun asked in a low voice. No matter who it was, she knew that it was definitely not Crown Prince Du Qichao. He really did want to harm them, but she still couldn't understand how he did it. Huh? A confused voice came from behind the screen. That was a woman's voice. She slowly stood up and walked to the screen. She looked at them in confusion and said, Why are you guys here? Shouldn't it be His Highness? Du Jiusheng narrowed his eyes and looked over the girl in front of him. She was wearing a bamboo-colored brocade gown with peony and phoenix patterns, and a silver phoenix flower hairpin was inserted diagonally on the top of her head. She looked exactly like a rich young lady. But although she was wearing an exquisite dress, there was a heroic aura coming from her. She didn't seem like a girl from a humble family. Chapter 2599. Chun Country's Princess? Luo Qingshun felt her heart skip a beat, and there was the sound of nails on all the doors and windows. In the next second, circles of white smoke surged in from all four directions. This is bad, Du Jiusheng roared out. He tore off a piece of cloth from his clothes and covered Luo Qingshun and Chen Yao's mouths and noses. Luo Qingshun was stunned as her heart beat fast. God, could it be that Du Qichao wanted to poison them to death? Although she was nervous, her mind was very calm. Every time this happened, she would begin to piece the scattered clues together. Du Qichao didn't want to marry Chen Yao, but he knew that he couldn't reject the emperor like last time. After all, the emperor had many sons. If he wanted to change him as the crown prince, it was very easy. Then, how could he justify not marrying Chen Yao? For the same reason, he didn't like Du Jiusheng, but although he was the cold palace's prince, he couldn't kill him. killing his brother. If this matter was spread, he might not be able to keep his position as the crown prince. Then what method could he use to get rid of Du Jiusheng and not marry Chen Yaoyao? Letters, maids, eunuch Shun, disguise, no. It wasn't poison, it should be love smoke. Luo Qingshun looked at Du Jiusheng in surprise. His face was a bit red, and his deep eyes were completely bloodshot. This move of killing two birds with one stone really was good. He had brought Du Jiusheng and Chen Yaoyao here if they did something improper. He couldn't explain it even if he had reason. Jiusheng, big brother Jiusheng. Don't speak. Du Jiusheng gritted his teeth. His breathing was very fast as beads of sweat rolled down his forehead. At that moment, he was speaking to Luo Qingshun in a commanding tone. This was his first time using this tone, so his heart felt very uncomfortable. Chen Yaoyao gave them a look, indicating that there was a room behind the screen. Although it was very close to the hall, they could hide for a while. Du Jiusheng tightly knit his brows. He quickly brought them to the room and opened the door to push them in. Big brother Jiusheng, you're a woman? Chen Yaoyao was stunned for a moment. At this moment, her voice was slightly choked with sobs. It was completely a woman's voice. Luo Qingshun gave a slight nod and slapped the door as she said, Big brother Jiusheng, let me out first. Don't mess around. He didn't have the slightest bit of strength left in his body. Under this kind of bewildering smoke, the desire in his body couldn't be released. He would die within a few hours. This kind of smoke is called gu. There are many profiteers in the state of Chun that sell it for pleasure. It's expensive and can easily cause sudden death. Chen Yaoyao clenched her fist and said, It seems that this crown prince has ulterior motives. Damn. Luo Qingshun tightly bit her lip and said, Why didn't I think of the use of that letter earlier? It seems like there is only one way. Chen Yaoyao looked at Luo Qingshun and asked, You don't want him to die, right? I can see that he is willing to risk his life to protect someone like me. He must be a good person. If this man had cared about her and the girl in front of her, the one poisoned would have been her. Chapter 2600. Then there's only one way. What way? You can sleep in the same room. Luo Qingshun knew that Du Jiusheng had heard this, but he didn't respond at all. He just used the cloth to block the door, not letting the smoke enter the room. Let him in and then close the door. Chen Yaoyao said, There's a screen and a zither in this room, so I'll sit behind the screen and play the zither for you. Although it's against the rules, we can't care that much about life and death. Luo Qingshun was a person who had lived for 30,000 years. Naturally, she knew what Chen Yaoyao meant. She didn't hesitate at all as she slammed the door. Du Jiusheng, if you don't come in, you don't like me. She didn't care that much at this moment. They had experienced too many things together. If sleeping in the same room could save his life, what did this count for? With a duh sound, the door was opened. It was instantly closed. Du Jiusheng hugged Luo Qingshun without any hesitation. His body trembled as he used all his strength to control the desire in his heart. He whispered in her ear, Sorry. Big brother Jiusheng didn't let me down. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips as tears came down drop by drop. Her eyes were red as she said, It's all my fault. You're always saving me. I can save you this time. I'm really happy. Seeing this scene, even a heroine like Chen Yaoyao couldn't help having red eyes. This kind of love really moved people. I'll play the zither for you. Chen Yaoyao closed the gap between the door and sat behind the screen. She gently lifted her hands and played a song of high mountain and flowing water. On the warm bed, rose petals fell onto the quilt and the gentle zither sound lingered in their ears. Du Jiusheng was releasing a burning aura, and each breath he took made people nervous. She wasn't afraid. She was just a bit nervous. Or perhaps she was a bit shy. I will give you the grandest wedding in the world, being worshipped by ministers and respected by tens of thousands of people. Du Jiusheng gently kissed her cheek as he tightly hugged her. Everything you want will be there. Luo Qingshun gently rubbed his face and said, Big brother Jiusheng has always been the most powerful hero in my heart. You're so good with words. I can't not be gentle. His eyes were filled with tenderness, and he wished that this moment could last forever. Fixed here, eternally immortal. Big brother Jiusheng. Luo Qingxin's eyes trembled as she said, "You have always been gentle." In order to meet him, she had crossed mountains, crossed time and space, passed through the wind, and waited for a reunion after 1,000 years. Their skin-to-skin contact was a collision in the deepest part of their souls. Accompanied by the melodious sound of the zither, they used the deepest part of their souls to attract each other. In the days to come, whenever Luo Qingxian thought of this night, she would unconsciously blush. Separated by a screen, there was a woman he had just met for the first time, and the two of them were doing something that couldn't be told to outsiders. However, this was also a good thing. If it weren't for the emergency situation this time, they would have become sworn friends with Chun Yao Yao. Ding! The 3 songs ended. Chapter 26:01. Luo Qingxian lowered her head, and there was a faint blush on her cheeks. She really was embarrassed. For this kind of thing, there was a little girl's heart that couldn't be said. It wasn't a simple life and death situation that could disappear from her mind. "Io, you're a big girl, and you're still this shy." Chun Yao Yao took her hand and said, "I'll help you dress." No matter what, they were her life-saving benefactors. In this dangerous situation, these 2 masked people didn't throw her away in this life and death situation. If one didn't experience this feeling, it would be very hard to understand. Luo Qingxian nodded and looked at Du Jiusheng beside her. He softly patted her head and said with a smile, "Go." Although it wasn't a phoenix coronet, it was hard to avoid feeling excited when wearing these red clothes. Although it isn't a beautiful scene, it is the face of a celestial. Chun Yao Yao said with a smile, "You are a beauty. You can make your own vows." Luo Qingxian looked up at Du Jiusheng in his red robe with a determined look in her eyes. She took a deep breath and slowly said, "I remember when we first met, a single thought fell into the world of mortals. I don't regret being mortal, but I've been stubborn for many years." This was what she wanted to express the most, using a single line to express it. Du Jiusheng bowed and replied, "I know that there is no marriage in this life, but I can't control myself. I look up with a smile to ask you, Lao. The red line of love has been formed." "Wah!" Chun Yao Yao couldn't help saying on the side, "Aren't you too reserved? Is it that hard for me to like you, and you to like me?" Blame her for being unrestrained. She really couldn't stand this kind of awkward poem. "That's right," Luo Qingxian said with a faint smile. "Big brother Jiusheng, please take care of me for the rest of my life." "Qing'er should take care of me." Du Jiusheng looked at her with a bit of pain. "It's been hard on you." Luo Qingxian shook her head and said no. To her, if she could survive the calamity of this plane just like that, then what was there to feel aggrieved about? "Knock, knock, knock. The people inside come out quickly. Don't do anything improper." The 3 of them looked at each other before Du Jiusheng narrowed his eyes and said, "If I don't know how to fight back at this point, I'm not qualified to stand by Qing'er's side at all. Big brother Jiusheng, you should all know what the crown prince wants. He doesn't want to marry Yao Yao, but he doesn't dare to start a war between the 2 countries, so he can't kill Yao Yao." The blush on Luo Qingxian's face gradually faded, and a touch of frost appeared between her brows. She said, "So by tarnishing Yao Yao's innocence, we can make Chun Guo retreat." Du Qichao's move was really ruthless. If she wasn't here, the consequences would be unimaginable. Humph. Chun Yao Yao gave a cold snort. "No wonder he came to the Ning Palace to find me. It was to make me lower my guard. This person is meticulous and vicious. What can't he do?" Luo Qingxian narrowed her cold eyes as a chill appeared in them. "Actually, I can see a bit. I feel that there are many complicated things in his eyes." Chun Yao Yao pursed her lips. "It's all my fault. I was too careless." Chapter 26:02. At this moment, not only was there the Crown Prince Du Qichao standing outside, there was also the Emperor and the Chun country's envoys. The Eastern Palace had received a secret report that the Chun country's princess and the Mo country's 9th prince were having a private meeting in Fonya Pavilion. "Emperor, the people of the Cold Palace are restless." The Empress added fuel to the fire His mother in the past was also very dissolute. It made people feel disgusted. Humph! The emperor gave a cold snort and didn't say anything else. He looked over at Du Chi-Chow, and Du Chi-Chow immediately said, "Mother is right. Your son has been running to the Ning Palace in the past few days. I never thought that the Chun country's princess would be this restless." He had to step on Chun Yao Yao. That way the emperor would be more convinced. But the Mo king was the ruler of a country. Although he turned a blind eye to many things, he wasn't a fool. There was a pung sound as the door was opened. It was quite easy to open it. It seemed like before the emperor came, the crown prince had already sent people to open the door and windows. "Your son greets royal father and the empress." Du Jiusheng came out first. He was wearing a large red wedding robe that surprised everyone. Beside him was Luo Qing-chun, who had an indifferent expression, but had a beauty that could topple cities. She and Chun Yao Yao bowed at the same time. Greetings to the emperor and the empress. This was the first time Du Chi-Chow hadn't recovered. He thought that his plan was flawless and there wouldn't be any accidents. Why? Why did a Luo Qing-chun suddenly appear? Cuckoo. The emperor cleared his throat and said, "This is your so-called restlessness, so-called moral corruption." "Emperor," the empress said with a bit of panic in her eyes, "this matter definitely isn't that simple." "Of course this matter isn't that simple," Chun Yao Yao said with a cold nod. "I've always been curious. Why did your highness invite me to the Fengya Pavilion? So you want to harm people while tarnishing my innocence? Your mouth is full of nonsense." Du Chi-Chow's expression was gloomy and cold. He looked at her and said each word like ice. "When did this prince ask you to come to Fengya Pavilion? You know very well whether His Highness the Crown Prince invited me or not." Chun Yao Yao looked at the emperor and said, "I am a princess of another country. If I didn't have an appointment, how could I come to this place? In this palace, other than the empress, I only know you, your highness." Chun Yao Yao could naturally argue because what they saw wasn't her and Du Jiusheng living under the same roof. As long as he was not the target of public criticism, everything would become much easier. "Father," Du Chi-Chow cupped his fists, "you must believe me, I would never do such a thing. This princess of the Qin kingdom is naturally unwilling to make peace with us, so she intentionally set up a trap to cause internal strife among us, so that she can benefit from it." "Ha!" Chun Yao Yao looked up to the sky and laughed. "Crown Prince, ah, Crown Prince. The state of Chun is on good terms with you. 5,000 warhorses are already on the way as a betrothal gift. You say that this is a trap set by my country. It really is laughable. What method do you have to prove that you're right?" Du Chi-Chow coldly replied, but his heart was already nervous. Chapter 26:03. Chun Yao Yao said with a cold laugh, Chun Yao Yao will say it today, if a despicable person like you is the crown prince of the Mo country, there is no need for our two countries to be friends. But if it isn't, even if I don't marry into the Mo country, the Chun country's horses will still be sent, and we will still defend the Dragon Gate." Chun Yao Yao's words were too sharp, so the emperor's face turned pale. She quickly kneeled down and said, "Emperor, you can't listen to the nonsense of people from other countries. You should be clear on what kind of personality Chow has." "Humph." The emperor gave a cold snort. "Of course this one is clear. This one will personally investigate this matter. As for your son, whether he wants to marry the Chun country's princess or not, this one is even more clear." As soon as his voice fell, the emperor turned to leave. But Du Jiusheng called out to him. He had been waiting for this chance the entire time. Now was the best time to do so. "Royal father, give your son 2 hours and everything will come to light." "No, royal father, he is just—" "All right." The emperor cut off Du Chi-Chow. "Everyone come with this one to the Supreme Harmony Hall. The Mo country will not wrong her highness." "Many thanks, emperor." Chun Yao Yao gave a bow. "Our two countries have a good relationship, and my Chun country has shown enough sincerity. Naturally, we hope that the Mo country will respond to us." In the Supreme Harmony Hall, all the high-ranking officials were present. All the spies that Du Jiusheng had arranged over the years came in handy. One or two of them were even close confidants of Du Qichao. The one that surprised him the most was Eunuch Shun. It turned out that Eunuch Shun had been by Du Jiusheng's side since the beginning. But because of the special nature of the plan, he didn't tell Luo Qingxin and only told her a part of the information. Du Jiusheng didn't want Luo Qingxin to be involved in this matter, so he almost lost everything. That day, the letter that Du Qichao had Luo Qingxin give to Eunuch Shun was a letter of treason. He was planning on hitting them when they were down and framing Du Jiusheng after the Grace Pavilion matter. But he didn't know that this letter would be blocked by Eunuch Shun. Although he didn't know how Du Qichao was going to deal with Du Jiusheng and Chun Yao Yao after the Grace Pavilion matter. However, when he investigated the Eastern Palace's supplies, he found a large amount of aphrodisiac. Because of the uncertainty of this matter, and if they directly told Du Jiusheng, he definitely wouldn't let Luo Qingxin take this risk. Therefore, he first chose to tell Luo Qingxin in the form of a secret letter, using another way to avert danger. After all, even if Du Jiusheng knew what Du Qichao wanted to do to him, he had to go to the Fengya Pavilion. Only by making the other party lower his guard would he be able to defeat him completely. After 2 hours in the Hall of Supreme Harmony, all the evidence pointed to Du Qichao. The Empress's face became uglier and uglier, and Du Qichao's defense became paler and paler. Finally, there's the matter of my wife's family betraying the country. Du Jiusheng coldly looked up. If Su Yu's investigation isn't wrong, it should be done by your highness. Everyone in the hall sucked in a breath of cold air. For Du Jiusheng saying wife, for him saying betraying the country, for him saying Su Yu. Everyone knew that Su Yu was the greatest hero of the Mo Kingdom. It could even be said that if he wanted to mobilize troops, he didn't even need a commander seal. Everyone believed in him, respected him, and worshipped the military advisor behind him. What evidence do you have? Chapter 26:04. His voice was very cold, so cold that each word didn't just freeze Du Qichao's heart, it also froze Luo Qingxin's heart. 66 lives, it was just for Du Qichao's selfish desires, for him to obtain the so-called love. Laughable, cruel, and inhumane. Du Jiusheng. Du Qichao directly called him by his full name. You want to ascend the throne. How is this crime for making up lies? There was no evidence yet, so he had to use his aura to suppress the other side. This scene was like a banquet at the Hongmen. One wrong step and the entire game was lost. Ascend, he gave 2 cold laughs. If you didn't go against Qingxin, if you didn't frame her family's 66 lives, I wouldn't have given up. I would have been in the cold palace my entire life without a single complaint. Before Du Qichao could speak, he continued, as for the evidence you want, Su Yu is already at the palace gates. The letters you used to frame Magistrate Luo's family and send to the enemy nation have been found. What did you say? His entire body suddenly trembled, and the pupils in his eyes dilated at this moment. As the crown prince, he had been able to call the wind and rain since he was young. He had never admitted defeat. Who was he? Du Qichao, all right? He definitely wouldn't lose. That Liao spy was worried that you wouldn't keep your promise, so he kept all the letters you sent him. Du Jiusheng narrowed his cold eyes. When Vice General Su Yu was fighting the Liao army at the border a few days ago, he found this evidence. It was clearly written that the Luo magistrate was loyal, but his entire family was ruined by a despicable person like you. As soon as his voice fell, Du Jiusheng could feel the flames in his heart that were burning his heart. He loved that little girl, so even if it was hard, he had to take revenge for her and clear the Luo family's name. Is General Su Yu here? The emperor looked at Du Jiusheng with a look of admiration in his dignified eyes. Reporting to the emperor, he is here. The eunuch on the side bowed in response. Let him come in. In an instant, the empress's body collapsed. These words were actually a death sentence for the crown prince. She knew that if the emperor stood on the crown prince's side, Su Yu would not have been summoned to Taya Hall. This was enough to prove that the emperor's heart was leaning towards Du Jiusheng. Summon Su Yu for an audience. The young deputy general, clad in armor, walked over majestically. He knelt down and said, This General Su Yu greets your majesty. No need to be so courteous. General Su has worked hard. The emperor revealed a faint smile. It was a smile of appreciation. Su Yu stood up slowly and went straight to the point. He handed over dozens of letters and said, "These are the letters I plundered from the Liao spy, Yelu Dong. Years ago, the prefectural magistrate was kind to this general. After learning of this matter, this general investigated several times and confirmed that this letter indeed came from His Highness the Crown Prince." In just an instant, the atmosphere in the main hall had reached freezing point. Everyone held their breaths, but any smart person would know. The imperial court and the imperial harem were going to change today. "Bring them up." The emperor's dignified voice slowly rang out, like he was setting today's ending step by step. Luo Qingshun couldn't help feeling her fingers tremble, and her eyes were already red. Her heart was filled with excitement. Whether it was the previous host's emotions or her own emotions, she was filled with excitement. There was a person who only thought of one thing in this situation, which was to clear her name. This feeling was like a raging tsunami, fiercely crashing into her heart. Chapter 26:05. The hall was silent for several seconds. If the emperor didn't speak, no one dared to say a word. After all, if the emperor didn't speak, no one dared to say a word. Of course, other than Du Chi Chao. After all, once a person was nervous, they would instantly collapse. "Royal father, this is all a trap. Your son, Crown Prince, Crown Prince. You've disappointed this one too much." The emperor threw the letter in Du Chi Chao's face. "Someone, lock the Crown Prince in the Eastern Palace and have the Justice Court investigate this matter. If the Crown Prince really is framing a loyal person." The emperor paused before continuing. "Punish him according to the laws of the Mo country." Luo Qingshan could see the trembling in the emperor's voice and the bloodshot eyes, but in front of the evidence, in front of 66 lives, it was impossible to be biased. Luo Qingshan didn't say a single word from beginning to end. It was like she had given everything to Du Jiusheng. She believed that he could clear the Luo family's name. 3 days later, the Justice Court had their results. Du Chi Chao was locked up in the Eastern Palace and sent to the Justice Court. Yu Longqing wanted to see him, but she was stopped by the guards. Yu Longqing bit her lip and said, "Just let me in for a quarter of an hour. I want to give him something." Go, quickly go. I told you not to come in. Are you deaf?" "That's right. Don't blame us, brothers, for being impolite if you don't leave." Now that the Crown Prince was deposed, the people of the palace were naturally harsh on the people of the Eastern Palace. At this time, Luo Qingshan and Yu Longqing felt like their statuses had swapped. Du Jiusheng had been summoned to the imperial study by the emperor for 3 days in a row. This included the generals led by Su Yu and the people of the court. The preparations that Du Jiusheng had made over the years all came to the surface with this fuse. This was something that even the empress in her high position never thought of. But whether it was the court or the harem, this world would definitely change. "Greetings, Miss Luo." Standing at the gate of the Justice Court, the guards all bowed, completely different from how they treated Yu Longqing. In the imperial palace, only those with power and influence could be respected. Whether it was Du Jiusheng or Luo Qingshan, they were both clear on this. But Yu Longqing, who had always been in their hands, didn't understand this. "I'll go in as well. You don't have to make things difficult for Miss Yu." Luo Qingshan raised her eyes and said, "If anything happens, just look for me." We don't dare. They looked at each other and said, "This former crown prince was personally sent in by Jiuyi. With Miss Luo here, nothing will happen." With that, 2 of them opened the door to the Supreme Court, one on the left and one on the right. Luo Qingshan didn't say anything to Yu Longqing and directly walked in. Yu Longqing would never know that there was something in Luo Qingshan's sleeve right now. Broken jade, clear bell. 66 people of the Luo clan were killed. Luo Feng was a loyal person who served the imperial court. He had never killed Yu Longqing's family, nor had he colluded with the Liao people. There had to be an end to all these groundless accusations. Du Chi Chao did deserve to die, But that didn't mean he was qualified to take this secret to the Yellow Springs. This wasn't because Luo Qingshun was cruel, but rather right and wrong. Yes was yes and no was no. She had to be responsible for the previous host. She had to be responsible for the Luo family's 66 lives. Yu Longqing followed behind Luo Qingshun and coldly said, I won't say thank you to you because... Chapter 26:06. Yu Longqing naturally didn't understand Luo Qingshun's words. After all, the woman in front of her was still the junior who killed her family. It wouldn't be too much for her to draw her sword for such hatred. The prison in the deepest part of the Supreme Court was simple but clean. Du Qichao stood in the prison. Although he was wearing a prison uniform, his sharp eyes were still filled with killing intent. What are you doing here? Du Qichao coldly glanced at Luo Qingshun. Everything isn't over yet, and you want to show off. Don't say that. Yu Longqing slowly walked forward. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be able to come in to see you. Humph. Du Qichao naturally understood Yu Longqing's words and angrily said, A bunch of dog slaves. Little people who curry favor with the rich and powerful. Of course, the servants will not allow themselves to be accused of neglect of duty for a fallen person. Luo Qingshun coldly raised her eyes. Du Qichao, I used to think you were selfish, but I don't think so anymore after you kill my family. She continued. Now I think you're not fit to be a human. In order to achieve her goal, she didn't hesitate to bury so many innocent lives. This kind of person, how heavy his thoughts must be, how dark he must be. What? Only your Luo family is allowed to kill my family, but Chao can't avenge me? Yu Longqing's pair of cold eyes looked at Luo Qingshun. Although I think framing the enemy is unethical, it doesn't mean they don't deserve to die. Luo Qingshun's cold eyes narrowed. Isn't the one who killed your family the one who should die? Are you really stupid or pretending to be stupid? Du Qichao said my father killed your family, and you believe him? Luo Qingshun could clearly feel that when she said this. Du Qichao's face turned pale, and there was a bit of panic in those bottomless eyes. In Du Qichao's eyes, Luo Qingshun had really changed. Even when she was talking about the blood feud, her expression was still so calm. What do you mean? Yu Longqing frowned. Don't try to drive a wedge between Chao and I. I was the one who found out Luo Feng killed my family. Chao is just avenging me. Drive a wedge? Luo Qingshun coldly replied. You're already prisoners. Why should I waste time driving a wedge between you? You also, the evidence you keep talking about. Luo Qingshun took out the broken jade clear bell from her sleeve and threw it on the ground before looking at Cold Moon Qing. It's this. In the original owner's world, this broken jade clear bell was a very precious thing. Since the day Du Qichao gave it to her, she carefully kept it by her side as if it was a treasure, but she would never know that it was because of this broken jade clear bell that the Luo family was killed. Yu Longqing looked at Luo Qingshun in shock. Her eyes were filled with fear. She had only told Du Qichao about the broken jade clear bell, so Luo Qingshun shouldn't have known. But how did she know that she was sure the Luo family killed her family because of this bell? Chapter 26:07. Her voice wasn't loud or soft, but it was powerful. She could feel her body trembling slightly as she said those words, and her eyes were slightly red. She hated Du Qichao. She hated him from the bottom of her heart. If it wasn't for Du Jiusheng, if it wasn't for her wanting to spend the rest of her life with Du Jiusheng, she might have even killed Yu Longqing, using an extreme method to make Du Qichao feel pain. But thinking about it, this was the most painful time for him, because she wanted to reveal the ugly face under that mask in front of the person he loved the most. Yu Longqing looked at the broken jade bell on the ground before looking at Du Qichao, is what she said. True. Could it be that the one who killed her family wasn't Luo Feng, but rather Du Qichao? Senior sister, do you really listen to what she says? Du Qichao's voice was very deep. He looked at Luo Qingshun with eyes filled with hatred and confusion. He hated that she wanted to put him in a situation where he couldn't recover. He didn't understand why her personality had changed so much. It was like he didn't know her after all these years. That willful and proud prefectural magistrate's daughter had turned into a calm and indifferent person. Du Chi-Chao, perhaps you don't even know. Luo Qingshun gave a shrug and said with a cold smile, "This broken jade bell was given to you by the Empress. The jade pendant on the bell has your name engraved on it." Actually, the previous host already knew about this, but she didn't know that it was because of this broken jade bell that the entire Luo family was killed. Yu Longqing picked up the broken jade bell that Luo Qingshun had thrown to the ground like she had gone crazy. There was indeed a Chao character engraved on the side of the bell. The lines were deep and powerful. It definitely wasn't engraved in recent years. "Luo Qingshun, you." "Me?" Luo Qingshun looked at his eyes filled with killing intent and replied in a cold voice, "What have I done wrong to you, Du Chi-Chao? Since I was young, my father worked for the Empress as a member of the Northern faction. He worked hard even if he didn't do anything. But what about you? For your own selfish desires, you didn't want Yu Longqing to know that the person who killed the entire Yu clan back then was the Empress. So, you framed my father because of a bell? I really don't know what right you have to look at me with such hatred after doing such a heartless and unjust thing." Her eloquent words expressed all the suppressed emotions in the bottom of her heart. Some people were selfish to a certain extent. They were the ones who caused the destruction of other people's families, but they felt that others had wronged them. In the end, who was the one who had wronged whom? Justice was in the hearts of the people. After a long time, Yu Longqing picked up the jade-breaking bell with her trembling right hand and looked at Du Chi-Chao. "Chao, I want to hear you say it, say it." Why didn't he say anything? Why didn't he explain himself? Even if the evidence was right in front of her, if he tried to defend himself, she could still find an excuse for him and say that there was no conclusive evidence. But after Luo Qingshun finished her sentence, he remained silent for a long time. "Why? Why?" "Senior sister." Du Chi-Chao looked deeply at her and said in a low voice, "I can't tell you the truth because she is my mother." That year, he had indeed seen his mother kill Yu Longqing's family with his own eyes. The broken jade-breaking bell was hanging on his waist at that time, but he liked Yu Longqing too much, so he couldn't tell the truth no matter what he did. Because he couldn't kill his mother, but he also couldn't let himself lose her. Chapter 26:08. Luo Qingshun was right. He didn't have the right to hate her. It's really you." Yu Longqing suddenly laughed foolishly, tears dripping down from her eyes. She looked at him with a hoarse voice and said, "Why? Why did you do this?" I want you forever." Du Chi-Chao's eyes turned red. His original intention was simple. Yu Longqing, Yu Longqing, Yu Longqing, Yu Longqing, nothing else. Even if he was attracted by other things, his original intention didn't change. "Get me?" "Ha ha." Yu Longqing laughed while crying. "So you want me to be heartless and unjust? So you want to use the entire Luo clan to cover up my hatred? Senior sister, I know you won't forgive me." Du Chi-Chao looked up, "But I'll do the same even if I have to do it all over again." Du Chi-Chao. Yu Longqing roared, "Don't drag me into your heartless acts. I don't care about life or death, but I can't betray my trust. If he killed them, he killed them. If he didn't, he didn't." Being unscrupulous in order to achieve her goals was never something she, Cold Moon, would do. "Senior sister." She threw away the lunchbox and looked at Du Chi-Chao. "I'll take revenge myself." As soon as his voice fell, he suddenly turned around and said to Luo Qingshun, "Miss Luo, if I succeed in my revenge, I'll leave my life for you to kill. If I fail, I'll owe you a life and pay you back in my next life." "I don't want a life." Luo Qingshun narrowed her eyes and said coldly, "I'm not as stupid as you. I'm sorry." These were the last words Yu Longqing said to her. When her figure disappeared around the corner, Du Chi-Chao shouted in the cell, "Stop her. She's going to take revenge on my mother." Luo Qingshun stood there in silence, staring at Du Chi-Chao coldly. "Why do you have to involve her in the grudge between you and me?" Du Chi-Chao shook the iron bars forcefully. "She is innocent. Then dare I ask?" Luo Qingshun's cold eyes looked at Du Chi-Chao without a trace of warmth. "Why do you want to involve me in the grievances between you and her? Why should the 66 lives of our family be sacrificed for your love? Am I not innocent?" She really couldn't understand Du Qichao's request for her to stop Yulong Qing. Why, stop her, I beg you, I don't want it. With that, she turned around and left the Supreme Court without hesitation. She could even feel the despair in Du Qichao's eyes when he looked at her one last time. But if their identities were changed, would Du Qichao let her and Du Jiusheng go? The answer was definitely no. She was not a saint. She had a heart that could tolerate all things. If it wasn't for Yulong Qing mentioning the broken jade clear bell, if it wasn't for her telling Du Qichao that she would only marry him after taking revenge, perhaps the Luo family wouldn't be this miserable. She remembered that day in the cell when her parents tightly hugged her. Even if she didn't experience it, she could feel the same as the previous host. If she had to save Yulong Qing, she really couldn't do it. Perhaps there were magnanimous people in this world who could repay evil with kindness, but she couldn't do it. Chapter 26:09. Yulong Qing was dead. She died in the magnificent Ning Palace. She died at the hands of the Empress's secret guards. The Empress didn't like this girl from the Three Clear Mountain. If it wasn't for her son liking her, she would have already driven her out of the Eastern Palace. Magistrate Luo had been kind to her, and she had always been worried about the Luo family being exterminated. She couldn't let it go. Therefore, she thought of a way to save Luo Qingshan to calm her heart. She thought that she would spend the rest of her life in the cold palace, but she never thought that retribution would come in the end. Inside the cold North Palace, Luo Qingshan didn't go to the Ning Palace to see Yulong Qing's corpse. She just heard from the maids. A sword to the throat and blood splashed out. The entire Ning Palace was filled with the smell of blood. She just sat in the courtyard and watched the snow fall. She couldn't help feeling pity for her death. She was indeed an admirable girl, daring to love and hate. She had the spirit that a daughter of the Jianghu should have. Her thoughts stopped when she heard this sound. Luo Qingshan looked back. The mute slave was standing on the side with pastries and a pot of Bai Luo Chun tea that had just been brewed. Sit, Luo Qingshan said with a faint smile. Big brother Jiusheng isn't here now, so let's take care of these gifts for him. Looking back at the courtyard, there were countless large and small boxes. They were all gifts from the court. At first, Luo Qingshan told the mute slave that she couldn't accept these gifts. After all, they looked like gifts, but they were actually ticking time bombs. These things weren't as beautiful as they seemed on the surface. But as more and more gifts piled up in the courtyard, Luo Qingshan didn't care anymore. The people in the palace all saw it. Whether you touched these gifts or not, in their eyes, you had touched them. Since it was like this, why would she treat herself unfairly? She didn't like pearls and jade, but she did like pastries and tea. The mute slave angrily sat down and began to talk about what happened in the palace today. After Yulong Qing's death, Du Qichao was strangely calm when he learned of this matter. The Empress sent people 3 times, and although Du Qichao wasn't willing to see him, the maids all said that the crown prince was very calm. Luo Qingshan held her cheek as a trace of doubt appeared in her eyes. It shouldn't be like this. Du Qichao should really like Yulong Qing, even if he knew that Yulong Qing's death. She took a sip of tea and said, people who suppress their hatred in the bottom of their hearts are the most terrifying. Facts proved that her guess was right. That night, Chow's Lung Zeschi Palace U Palaces is Palace, SS Palace. Qing Lung, Ning Palace, T's Ning. He Jiu U T's. Yu T. The mute servant ran behind her. Luo Qingshan bit her lip and muttered, wait for me. But she never thought that when she arrived at the Palace of Supreme Harmony, Du Qichao would have already been subdued by the imperial guards. Du Jiusheng's sword was looking at her with ice-cold starry eyes without any warmth. The emperor was being protected by Du Jiusheng. Although he was a bit panicked, he still had the aura of an emperor. Beside him was the young Vice General Su Yu, who had just arrived.